that as well. That was very in sync, yeah.
Spooky. I'll let you read it out then.
Oh,
or read them out. I think there's 2 or 3 actually. Here's Van Buren again, runs away from us, flighted, cut away by Organ, but straight to the man at backward point. And I think that is Dominic. I think that is, isn't it?
Yeah, he's quite a tall figure
yeah.
there at point.
Sure, we'll see him in the attack shortly. Here's Van Buren again, length ball, which Organ quietly plays out on the offside.
Well, the one email I can see here is from Sam Lee, who says, Melissa, so it's just me. Look, they've recognised who the expert is here in the commentary box. Could James Vince get back in England side in any format this season?
They only want your opinion. As that's played out in the offside, they will take a quick single, 125 for 2.
I mean, I would lean more towards the white ball stuff than the red ball, I think. With this reset, with the England red ball setup, I think they're going to be looking to move forward, potentially with new players, rather than players they've given that chance already.
Van Buren again. Vince on the back foot, steers that past a diving first slip that was close. But that's going for 4 runs. Just found an extra bit of room there, James Vince. But the ball was quite tight to him when he played that shot. If you're watching on the live stream, I think first slip would have done amazingly well, even if he got a fingertip to it.
It just got high on him as well, that extra bounce, almost top spin from Van Buren there. And Vince, maybe a bit of a controlled edge, you'd say, as well. He did quite a good job of getting on top of it and just getting his hands on top of the ball, guiding that edge down towards the ground.
I think another one behind in that slip area might have been a bit more interested. Here's Van Buren again. Vince drives, doesn't time it as it goes out to short extra cover, and that's the end of the over. 129 for 2, Vince 35, Organ 53. We've had 45 overs.
So yeah, going back, unlikelier in the red ball stuff, but of course we saw Vince and Dawson performing for England in that series against the West Indies, those T20s, so potentially I think they do see him as a similar role almost to Dawid Malan, of the sense that Vince can come in, he can anchor that innings at the top of the order, perhaps. The only issue just being where would he slot in, with England's white ball team is just so proficient at the moment, with Roy and Bairstow, Butler all competing for perhaps those top 3 spots, and then suddenly you've got the captain coming in, you've got Stokes to come in, you've got Liam Livingstone. It's difficult to see where these newer players can swap in, so unless England adopts almost a rotation policy, which we may start to see more often, then potentially he could slot into that side, but I'm confident perhaps that Liam Dawson might have another shot, especially with his bowling this summer, as there is a bowling change at the pavilion end, and Dom Goodman is back on. You said so?
Yeah, I mean, it's hardly a surprise, is it really? Warner was just going for a few too many, wasn't he, really?
Goodman, 5 overs so far, 2 maidens, just the 10 runs, and he's bowling to Organ, who's on the front foot, almost down on that back knee, and driving to mid-on.
So that's the difference, really, isn't it? Goodman's first ball, which is a bit of a loosener, is right on the money. Warner took 3 balls.
He's demonstrating a lot of control, and you'd say maturity for someone so young. I think they said he was 21 years old here, playing, you know, quite new to playing this level of first-class cricket, but has really performed today with the ball, as he's in again, and that's slightly too full on a leg stump line and just flicked away from Organ. This won't make it to the boundary rope, so they get through for 2 runs. That was the commentator's curse in action there. But Goodman here just playing a valuable role for Gloucester, and they just need to do what they did in that first session, of just perhaps just applying the pressure a bit to these two. They've kind of run away with it now, with Organ on 55, James Vince on 35, of course dropped when he was on 25. But a few tight overs, you feel that things could slightly sway in the balance. But if you don't take those wickets, and a batting pitch as good as this one, and if you allow that partnership to flourish and blossom, then it's going to be difficult for Gloucestershire to have that breakthrough. As Dom Goodman to Felix Organ, who has a slash outside the off stump. That was quite a wide-ish delivery from Goodman, and it actually kept going wider with the swing, but Felix Organ was determined to throw his hands through that ball and entirely missed it.
Yeah, he was a long way away from it as well, and he didn't really get that back foot across towards off stump and give himself a little bit more an area in which to reach the ball. He was playing it from a pretty static position.
Dom Goodman past the stumps. And this is driven, this time comfortably, by Felix Organ through extra cover. There's a long chase for the fielder, but in the end, the ball just trickles over that boundary rope. Another 4 onto the total, and Felix Organ just showing that although he may have those loose shots like the delivery before, it is because he is an attacking player. That's the way he's played. He's done the patient part of his innings. He's got to the place where he is with 58 not out, and now that almost path from 0 to 50 is so much harder than 50 to 100. And if the runs start flowing for him, then he could be there in no time.
One of his better shots for me, that one. Nice firm shot.
It was very similar to what the shot you'd expect from the man at the other end, James Vince.
Definitely.
Taking notes from the captain as Goodman in and driven again, but this time straight to mid-off, and Felix Organ advances down the pitch and gets sent back by James Vince. He ran almost straight down the middle of the pitch, which I'm sure the umpires will be delighted about. James Vince was screaming no at him, which was probably the right call. I don't think it went between the fielders as much as Organ thought. It actually probably just went to the left hand more of a fielder, who picked it up quite quickly, and I think a sensible call there from James Vince. Final ball of the over. 2 slips in play. And that's short and wide outside the off-stump cutaway, but a good dive from the fielder and a shy at the stumps. And a dive from the fielder backing up. It's all happening out there in the middle. That ball was slashed away by Organ, a diving stop in the covers from the fielder. And James Vince this time had advanced halfway down the pitch, and he was suddenly sent back to the non-striker's end. Shy at the stumps, they missed, and the fielder backing up was on the ground. Total circus. I think.
I'll tell you what, we nearly had two run-outs in that over. I was just thinking during that over, I was thinking, now this is where Gloucestershire have got to dig in a little bit here, because that ball change at 76 for 2 has done absolutely nothing, has it? I mean, the ball, if anything, the ball's done slightly less, but it hasn't done much anyway. So Gloucestershire have just got to be careful here. The run rate, when I last looked at the board, was less than 2.5, and it is now very close to 3. I know there's 2 guys in there and batting well. Partnership usually does increase the run rate, but this is where I think Gloucestershire just need to be a bit careful here. 134 for 2. Hampshire could start pulling away unless they really start to keep it tight, as Van Buren bowls. That's played back to him by James Vince. Steve Rogers has emailed solentcricket@gmail.com just saying thank you very much for the coverage. He says this is going to be his last day of watching the YouTube coverage. Vince drives and it's well stopped at short extra cover. That looked like it was 4 runs, because he's going back to the office tomorrow, and he says he will still be tuning into the commentary, but he's looking forward to seeing Hampshire in action at Chelmsford at the end of June, and he intends to be at all 4 days of that one. Well, I think these days, as that's worked up to mid-on and that'll be a single, I think normally day 4 at Chelmsford's a big no-no, because there never was a day 4. I don't think there was ever, can't remember, but there just seem to be 1 or 2 games now where games do seem to be lasting a bit longer than they normally do there, so good luck with all 4 days on that one. Van Buren bowls, flighted, and that's worked on the onside. I'll have to hurry, but that's good running there from Felix Organ.
I wonder if Hampshire fans have a particular ground which they most enjoy going to when Hampshire's playing away. Ooh. I mean, feel free, nice. Anyone listening, to get in contact. Of course, we have, I've lost what's the Twitter account? It's completely gone over my head.
At Solent Sport.
At Solent Sport, or at solentcricket@gmail.com.
Yeah, or we can go to you if you want to. That's pushed out towards extra cover and there's no run. Or
at Melissa G Story on Twitter. So if there's any particular grounds you have that affinity to as a Hampshire away supporters, where you think there's, you know, great ambience around the ground, you enjoy the journey up, you enjoy the other team, or you just enjoy the bar, please send it in.
Always important. What's the G stand for, by the way?
Middle name.
Yeah. Well, I know that. That's Vince on the back foot, and he's found the gap. Just in front of point, past Goodman, and that's 4 runs. A little bit too short there from Van Buren to end that over. 14 runs he's conceded now of 6 overs, 140 for 2. What is it?
That was a very blonde moment. It stands for Grace.
Grace?
Yeah.
Right. Is that a family connection, Grace?
No, my family have decided, or they did when they were having us as children, to kind of find our names from graveyards. So, when they were unsure, usually normal people would use baby name books or, you know, as you say, a family-related name. But no, my parents decided that the best option was to go through some walks through some graveyards and find some baby names.
Right.
So it's quite a nice story for me and my sister's name. So, yeah, I'm Melissa Grace, and my sister is, oh, goodness, Charlotte Mary Alethea.
Wow.
Now, that could have been a gravestone from probably the 1700s.
Yeah.
And yeah, since I could not tell you how to spell it whatsoever.
So a middle name inspiration from that.
Yeah, so if anyone's listening is also currently expecting, then plan a trip to your local cemetery. It's illuminating. Our dog's name actually came from there as well. As Dom Goodman to continue, and that's on the leg stump line, just pushed that fielder at mid-wicket for no run.
Charlie Tipler has tweeted at Silent Sport, currently looking at booking Scarborough this season. You mentioned Scarborough. Hotel tips would be great. The best thing I can recommend is getting early, because it ain't easy to book hotels up there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a game up at Scarborough, and I'm not sure whether there's going to be any Hampshire games I can do this year, so maybe I'll have to go as a spectator. As Goodman in, and that's full, and that's completely toppled the batter. A big appeal from the Gloucestershire bowlers. That was an in-swinging Yorker from Goodman, and Felix Organ was struck and completely fell to the ground. It was going down the leg side there from the impact, but now that's a compliment to your pace as a bowler if you're completely knocking batters to the ground.
Yes, that's a good Yorker, that. Oh, it's definitely worth a shout, that one. Good delivery.
Goodman looking and just searching for that wicket against Felix Organ, who's defending off a good length. I mean, the good thing about Organ is that because of the way he plays, that almost seems to open up different wicket opportunities than compared to other batters. I think with James Vince, you know, you're looking to edge off to the slips or conventional LBW. Felix Organ in that Lancashire game got dismissed trying to hook that short ball off Jimmy Anderson. He was caught at that short leg, almost, or short fine leg inside the ring. So he has unconventional dismissals through the nature he plays as he's driving on the front foot back to the bowler. So yeah, I'd love to go to Scarborough. I used to go there a lot as a kid. So the only thing I can really remember is donkey rides and ice creams, not quite cricket related things.
No.
Now Alex has just given me a warning look on the word donkeys, because I spoke about donkeys last week.
Oh, right.
It goes down into this massive rabbit hole and you suddenly can't get out. As Goodman, fifth ball of the over, bowling to Felix Organ, who just guides this down to third man. There's no fielder down there, and the ball teases the fielder, who is in pursuit. 4 runs onto his score. 63, not out now, Felix Organ.
Yeah, Hampshire have a 4-day game and a 1-day game there this year, so they're actually there twice. 50-over game, yeah. It's
one of those, you know, most famous outgrounds, really, which just still brings in that and Cheltenham, you'd say, bringing in the massive crowds and making it into just some big festival and week-long event.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been out there for a very long time, actually, so... and yes, I've managed to get in for the 4-day game. I haven't got in for the 1-day game yet.
As Goodman in again, that's a shorter ball down the leg side, so slightly ineffective to finish the over. Hampshire 144 for 2 now.
Simon Watkins at Silent Sports says Billy Joel played at the Aegeus Bowl a few years ago. I can't remember that, but obviously he did. Apologies for not remembering that. Tom Johnson's replying to your one about Vince.
Oh, okay. Oh, so he has said, talking about Vince to England play Netherlands in 3 away ODIs. I think that's in late June, maybe, or July. I can't think. In between test matches this summer, so there'll be no Root, Bairstow or Stokes. He got an ODI 100 last summer, so will he get a call up then? Very potentially.
Good chance, isn't it?
That's quite an exciting series. We were chatting last week in the Hampshire-Lancashire game about how we wish more associate nations were part of England's kind of schedules and fixtures.
Yeah. Van Buren, left arm round the wicket. Vince works that on the leg side behind square. He runs the first one quickly. I think he's going to get 2 here. He does, because that's quite a lot of work there for the fielder, George Scott, to big area away to our right to cover. 2 runs, 146 for 2.
And of course, New Zealand recently played Netherlands in the white ball game as well. So if it's possible in the white ball game and it starts picking up that momentum, then let's get these test matches between associate nations, or between the England Lions and associate test nations.
2. It's on the back foot, steers that. Oh, that's half fielded at mid-wicket. It's gone under the hand of Jared Warner, but he's covered behind by Amir, and he's all right.
Andrew Tebb has been in contact about his favourite ground to go to when Hampshire are playing away.
It's forward, behind square on the offside this time.
He says he likes both Cheltenham and Worcester, plus Lords for a final. I've never been to Worcester. I've only seen the classic pictures of it in about mid-March, where it's completely underwater.
Yeah. It's cut away by Vince, that's 4. There is quite a big gap there between the deepish extra cover and the backward point. Vince found it. Made easy for him with that delivery as well. The Hampshire 150 up in the 49th over.
Do you have a favourite ground?
I suppose these days it's only because of the commentary facilities.
And the food.
And the food. And my vote probably goes... It's a toss-up. Oval, like the Oval. Lancashire, great media facilities at the Old Trafford, Melissa. If you get a chance there, that's probably the best. That's cut away, and that's hit hard in front of square. That's 4 through extra cover. 2 short from Van Buren once more. And that is Vince's half-century. 77 deliveries with 9 fours. And that is Vince's 4th half-century this season already, and that includes that 100 against Kent.
You feel with those 4 half-centuries, including that 100, if he can just convert this 50 now to another 100, then all those people speculating whether he'd get that red ball call-up, it would definitely make him more likely.
Push to short extra cover, and there's no run. Don't forget Lords as well. Lords is pretty good. Yeah, mustn't forget Lords. You haven't done a game at Lords?
No, yet. I haven't. I've got, well, I have a list of counties where I have visited in terms of mainly watching, and I think there's 5 or 6 maybe left I've never been to. So the northern grounds, particularly Headingley and Old Trafford, Durham, and then a couple in the Midlands I haven't been to yet. So it's an exciting prospect.
Well, Melissa's going to come take my spot, and Ed Seaborn is coming alongside where Melissa was. Just very quickly, Vicky Marleyhausen, afternoon to you, Vicky, at Solent Sports, says, popped into the Ageas Bowl for the afternoon session. Good to see Felix Organ get past 50. It certainly is. And just a reminder that he's opening in place of the injured Joe Weatherly. It's moved up from 7 to 1, and it's working very well so far. As Goodman comes in, more runs there for Organ as that's worked down towards fine leg. It'll only be a single. Organ moves on to 64, and it's 155 for 2 now. And these two going along very nicely indeed, and hard work for Gloucester Ed.
Yep, very much so. Things have turned this afternoon very much. Well, I say turned, I think overall in the morning session you'd probably say it was Hampshire's just about, as Goodman is in and bowls. Oh, inside edge onto pad there from James Vince. Couldn't have known exactly where that was going, but it's just felt in the last, what, half hour, 40 minutes or so, that things have started to get away from Gloucestershire quite quickly. And the one thing that they could hang their hat on was the fact that they were controlling the board. That's now getting away from them, and Vince in particular looking pretty ominous on 50 off 79, and you know exactly how he can accelerate a scoring rate in a short space of time. Goodman in and bowls, and Vince defends that one out towards short mid-wicket, and there's no run.
I think these things pointing again to perhaps how intense this early county season is, especially on the bowlers, and just at these times when usually you could rely on your first change, second change bowler being quite experienced. And actually, although we've been speaking high praise of Goodman because he's done a really good job in these kind of situations, it's a lot of pressure to put on the entire of Gloucestershire's quite young bowling attack to suddenly bowl to especially James Vince and his high standards.
Goodman bowls, turn to mid-wicket once more by James Vince. Short mid-wicket. They've still got those 2 catches in front of square, one on either side, short mid-wicket and short extra, and just the 1 slip. But yeah, I think Goodman has done a really good job, but it's something that happened a little bit against Surrey as well, where they had everything under control, and part of that was because the likes of Amir and Payne playing in that game were quite fresh at that point. As Goodman is in bowls down leg side, that will fly for 4 somethings. Umpire Debenham signals runs, to get a little tickle on it, down the leg side for 4. James Vince, Goodman, well, it's a nice little leg glance from Vince. Goodman just a little bit too straight and picked off 159 for 2. But yeah, there was a period, and it feels as if, unfortunately, it seems to be happening here again as well, where it just felt as if Hampshire's, had just started to get away here. And the only thing that's going to change the way things are going are wickets. Goodman bowls, Vince forward defending the ball out into the covers, and the end of the over. 5 runs from it, 159 for 2. 64 to Organ and 54 to Vince. How do they get it back under control? It's so difficult once you've released that pressure to then build it back up again. It takes a good half an hour for it to build up again.
It's interesting you mentioned those 2 fielders, the almost close catches on both sides of the wicket, that short mid-wicket and short extra cover, because we see a lot of teams almost deploy those fielders when they're searching to get wickets at the Aegeus Bowl. When you start to lose that sideways movement, the slips become a bit obsolete. But actually, it's quite rare to see, drives upwardly lifted to those fielders. If anything, we see at the Aegeus Bowl on pitches like this that it's LBW and bowled are the most common dismissal. LBW particularly prevalent because last game I think there was 8 LBW.
Yes, I saw something like that. Yes, I saw the number of them in one innings.
And it just goes to show how quickly bowlers at this ground have to adapt to going, right, bowling outside the off stump's not working for us right now. What are we going to do? We just need to attack those stumps. Yes, sometimes they're going to leg glance us away, but other times we will get. It's defended by Organ on the back foot for no run. I guess all Gloucestershire can really do is keep chopping and changing these bowlers and attack those stumps. Yeah,
I think so, and I think also it's sometimes with those types of fielders, and you maybe talk about it more with the kind of short, straight mid-off Matthew Hayden type position, where you're not looking for a catch. All you're doing is you're looking to change what the batters are doing.
As Mohammed Amir in again on the back foot, defending off a good length as Organ.
And it's, you're just looking to put something, exactly, something into the batter's minds. If a bowler on middle and leg, I can't clip the ball there. I'd like to clip the ball there, but I can't. So then you try and play a different shot, miss it, and then you get your LBW, rather than necessarily the loose clip through mid-wicket, actually bringing the short mid-wicket into play directly. I think you've just got to try stuff, haven't you? What else can you do but try stuff?
Amir bowls, and that's down the leg side, and there's an appeal from a lone fielder at short mid-wicket. I can't quite see who that is there, but not much enthusiasm for anyone else. I mean,
Marcus Harris at short mid-wicket. No comments about Aussies and appealing, please.
I mean, another option could be, of course, with the angle Mohammed Amir has, is bringing in a leg slip as, oh my goodness.
There we go. Chapeau.
I'm in shock. I mean, I wasn't aware that I had a telepathic link with the Gloucestershire captain, but apparently I do, because a leg slip has now been put in place. And I was just going to go on to say that, of course, that angle he's coming across, and if Gloucestershire are looking to attack the stumps, then why not just see if they could take that catch down the leg side, as in comes Amir and defended by Organ.
Yeah, and I think you've got to commit to that plan if you're going to do it. And I think possibly the danger is, and they do have fine leg, relatively fine, but the danger is that we saw what happened with Organ when they tried this, actually when the ball was still quite new, and he just jabbed the ball off, and it went past the leg slip and still went for 4, which you can't really have if you're going to do this.
Mohammed Amir bowls, and that's sliced off the back foot by Organ, who got bit too quick on, or the delivery got a bit too quick on him, and it's dropped into the offside. Yeah, no, I agree. And as well, that element we were talking about of Organ, that he does have that bit of flair. If they suddenly take a leg stump line and attack him, he will have no hesitation in, as you say, flicking them over square legs. So if they are going to pursue this tactic, they need to be all in and potentially have that deep square leg as well, just as some extra protection, especially as Organ can be almost susceptible to being caught out on the boundary just when he can't quite control those flicks off the leg. As Mohamed Amir in again, and this has flicked off the leg by Felix Organ, down to fine leg for a single. But I mean, it's going back to what you said about it's better to see Gloucestershire trying all these things to try and generate and force those wickets, rather than just them sitting back and accepting and going, we're just going to keep bowling outside the off stump. Something will happen, inevitably. Here, they're really trying to make something happen. Yeah,
I think it's a balance, isn't it? Because you need to. I just say you need to. I mean, maybe you don't. There sort of comes a point where you don't get bored, but you realise that the batters aren't getting bored. So you have to do something. Obviously, you try and make sure you can still control the board whilst doing it, but it goes back to being a captain, and when you feel as captain it's time to pursue something totally different. And actually, during that extraordinary match last week, during Surrey, where they were bowling at Gloucestershire for 120 overs, 443 for 2, at one point they tried something completely different. They had Jordan Clark bowling round the wicket to the two Gloucestershire left-handers, firing it way wide of off stump, almost on the wide line. I can see you're out in my head. Suddenly, I enjoyed your little visualization there. Goodman starting a new over in and bowls, and that's worked away quite firmly, but straight to short mid wicket, okay, no run.
I'm stood in my left-hander's
I can see,
position.
Yeah, I'm going to send it down wide over there. What are you going to do?
Probably lean for it, chase it, and splice it straight up to the covers.
Well. Okay,
or
what
edge
you're
it to a gully.
Yes, that's what you're going to do. You're going to edge it to the gully, but in fact what you're going to do is you're going to edge it right between gully and slip twice.
I am really good at doing that as well.
Here comes Goodman and bowls. That's down the leg side. He has a flash at it, Organ, but he can't get anything on it, and it's taken by Bracey to his left.
See the cherries on the edge of my bat. It's incredible. I mean, clearly the Gloucestershire batters also had a tactic. They saw that they were bowling short and wide, and they said, well, I'm going to put the ball right between your slip cordon.
Well, yes, and then and then Marcus Harris edged it into the slips, and it was dropped. So that was a, yeah. It was just a weird passage of play, and they did concede some runs doing it, Surrey, as Goodman, right arm over, in and bowls, and on the back foot, Organ didn't quite get on top of that one, but didn't go in the air for too long, and it's fielded at cover for no run.
I guess it's one of the categories which the tactics fall into. Is it, are we going to bowl short? Are we going to completely attack the stumps? Or are we going to dangle the ball out there outside the off stump like a carrot and then completely pack out the offside and the slip cord and then just wait for something to happen?
There's a lot of fruit and veg flying about at the moment, it seems. Here comes Goodman. Oh, that is very wide, and he has had a go at it, and he's toe-ended it straight to mid-off, and there won't be a run.
It was the salad I had for lunch. It's in my head.
Ah, is it? I don't think that sounds very
not very healthy. If
no,
it's to my head.
No. A sort of fermented salad or something like that.
Oh,
sort of a Korean-inspired
Kev's
salad,
been out the room for about 2 minutes and it's already descended into chaos.
We're disintegrating here. Here comes Goodman. That's very short and ducked underneath by Organ, but to be honest, he probably barely needed to duck it, and it's taken by Bracey behind the stumps. No, I can't even remember what we were on about before we started this diversion.
Very intelligent.
It was.
Very analytical.
Yes, from you, yeah. No, well, we were talking about dangling the carrot. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, tactics.
Yes, but it almost felt actually with that very wide delivery that could be what happened. As Goodman is in, turned away into the leg side this time. I might think about two here. It's played between backward square and long leg, but they're going to settle for the one, and that is the end of the over. So 161 for 2 at the end of over number 52, 66 to Organ and 54 to James Vince. But I'm not saying they're going to try that here, but, you know, it almost, I'm not going to say it almost worked, because it was nowhere near getting a wicket, but at the same time, Organ was reaching away at that one, got the toe end of the bat on it, and it just shows you sometimes you do actually have to bowl a ball that the batter thinks they can smack away in order to be able to get a wicket. Obviously, you've got to set your field right, but yeah.
I made a note actually on that ball where you say Felix Organ, it came off the toe of his bat, but he actually finished in a position probably about 1 metre at his crease, all slumped looking at the floor because he was so annoyed he hadn't made good contact with that wider ball. As Mohammed Amir continues, and short ball ducks underneath it does Felix Organ. And going back to the way he plays, he will get frustrated if he doesn't quite make that contact. So you've got on one hand Felix Organ, where if you hang the ball outside the off stump, he will play those kinds of shots, and now and again it will work. You may catch him in the covers, he may play it slightly uppish. James Vince, on the other hand, well, we all know that he does love a ball outside the off stump, especially if there's a second slip in. I'm glad he's not listening to this, but it's, you know, it is a tactic for these two specifically at the crease. Maybe might work a bit better than actually attacking the stumps. It's going to be Gloucestershire's call to make, as that's outside the off stump and guided down to third man. This will be 4 runs. He just got on top of the bounce here, did Felix Organ, and again, so many runs are being spilled in this area down third man. You almost feel as if we're speaking about these tactics of going, are they going to bowl straight, are they going to bowl outside the off stump, as that's a 100-run partnership just brought up there with that boundary. But actually, Gloucestershire sticking to a tactic at the moment, and especially in these last 4 or 5 overs, I would say that they've been bowling on both sides of the wicket, and it's become impossible to set a field for it. That's why they're leaking so many runs, and we're seeing runs through that third man region, but also we're seeing runs through the covers when they're being over pitched, and we're also seeing runs to the leg side. It's not been consistent enough from the Gloucestershire bowlers, and you just hope that with your more experienced players such as Mohammed Amir, he can rein in this control, as that one tucks up Organ, who just pushes it back down the wicket.
Yeah, and it's important to know where you can miss, isn't it? I think that's what you'd say. You can miss, with the field that they had, you can miss firing one down the leg side. You've got protection for that. You've got the long leg, you've got the leg slip, you've got the square leg. But what you couldn't do was bowl further wide of off stump, and it's just about knowing where you can miss, a sort of pro side miss, if you like. Now they've got 2 slips back in place, so I guess he's going to be able to bowl more off stump.
Mohammed Amir bowls, and this is driven and edged, a thick edge down to third man. Another boundary for Felix Organ. He moves on to 74 not out, and everything potentially is going a bit wrong for Gloucestershire here, and that's just pure bad luck from Amir. He was bowling to his field, that delivery, but again, that thick edge from Organ, and the ball flew away for 4.
Yep, that's when heads do start to go down, and I think it's something that you would say about Gloucestershire, and it's testament to Graham Van Buren's leadership skills out there, that you've seldom, even though they've been out in the field for such a long time in each of their last 2 matches, I think it's 167 overs in both of them, but the heads hadn't gone down. There's just a danger, you know, there's only so much you can take.
It's like being continuously tortured, essentially, as Mohammed Amir in, and that's pushed off the back foot, punched away by Felix Organ. Another 4 runs onto his total, 78 not out now, and he's just inching towards this 100. Looking at that replay again, it was just an delivery, to put it into words. It wasn't quite full, and it wasn't quite a good length, and it was a bit wide outside off stump, and it just looked quite pleasantly easy for Felix Organ to put away.
An delivery. It just sat up, didn't it? It really sat up. And
that's the professional way of saying it.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I think is equally professional, but you're not going to get away with that, are you? There's so much time actually to play it. It's just sitting up, begging to be hit. There's no danger of being late on it and flashing it into the slips. Apart from anything else, there's only 2 of them.
Mohammed Amir changing the angle, and this one's better line, pushed back by Felix Organ for no run, and that concludes quite an expensive over. 12 runs off it. Hampshire 173 for 2.
Yeah, real danger for Gloucestershire here. It's got to be said. The breakthrough needs to come quite quickly, or I think there's a serious danger that it is just going to become Right, here we go again. another day and a half, day and 3/4 in the field. Hampshire just looked to bat once. Anyway, we are a bit of a way off that, and who knows? Maybe if they can grab a couple of wickets before the second new ball, maybe the second new ball can do something later on. I'm not sure, but they can't lose hope yet.
Exactly, and it's, as we've said so often before, it's so much easier to look like a better batting wicket when there is a partnership being built. But suddenly one wicket can fall. And as we've seen so often with Hampshire, as we've seen so often on this wicket, there can be a flurry of wickets after that. So as you say, Gloucestershire can't let their heads drop now. It's day one, we're only in the afternoon session. Anything could happen now, especially with this bowling change.
Warner replacing Goodman. So Warner bowled 3 expensive overs in his first spell. So well, you know, he's had time to think about what went wrong in the first spell, and now he's going to rectify it for the second spell. I'm sure that's what he'll be thinking. Got a short extra cover in place as Warner is in and bowls to Vince, who defends to said fielder, and picked up by George Scott for no run. The one thing you would also say, though, is that Gloucestershire, and it happened last match as well, albeit I don't think anybody was getting a result from that one, especially with the final day rained off. But those little moments where you can you have a chance to help yourself, whether it be taking catches, whether it be having fielders in exactly the right place to take the catches, whether it be taking wickets off no balls. There's just been a few too many times this season, and it's easy to say from the sideline, of course. As Warner bowls full and straight, Vince defends firmly back to the bowler. There's just been a few too many times when that's happened, and you cannot give James Vince even a half a life. He was on 25 when he edged that ball somehow between first and second slip, and I still can't quite work out how it happened because they seem to be standing relatively close together.
I think one has edged so many catches to the slips before, he's maybe perfected the art of it, that actually, yes, he might edge it now, but he knows perfectly how to dissect the slip fielders.
Here comes Warner and bowls. Forward goes Vince and defends out towards short extra cover. Yes, a dissection of them would be rather messy, I think, and then there'd be quite a lot of blood to use on the ball.
Just make the ball swing. We're all coming in a full cycle here, back to my unproven theory.
Yes, there we go. You're just making, you know, what was it? The great mandala.
Yeah, almost like the wheel of life.
The wheel of life.
In a sense.
Yes.
Everything comes back to blood being used to shine the ball. And apologies to anyone who has tuned in just at this second and gone, oh my gosh.
Clue what on earth you're talking about, because I missed the discussion about the blood on the ball this morning. Here comes Warner. He's in and on the money once again, full and straight, and pushed out into the short extra cover region. There is no run. George Scott is the fielder in close there.
We have an email from Simon Woodhead. Of course, you can get in contact at solentcricket@gmail.com or on Twitter, which is @solentsport. He said, my favourite away grounds, of course we were discussing favourite grounds for Hampshire away fans or Gloucestershire
were you?
fans.
All right. I wasn't listening.
Oh, how rude. He says that his favourite away grounds for him are Abergavenny and Swansea. Abergavenny, it's just a fabulous club and location, and Swansea because it's the closest where I live to. Thanks, as always, for the great commentary.
Warner in and maybe hinting back into James Vince, but once again right in behind it and defending up the pitch. So did you give your
I didn't
answer?
Actually in the end. I must say I love Edgbaston, because I have good memories of their T20 finals day, which I've always gone to growing up. And they also gave me a free water bottle, and I love free things, so that's got good memories as well. I love Bristol. I do love Bristol.
Oh, good.
It's probably the ground I've been to the most, so.
Warner to complete the over, in and bowls, and once more on the stumps, forcing Vince into a forward defensive. So at least on that evidence, Jared Warner has thought about what went wrong in the first spell, because that was a terrific over. 6 balls bang on the spot, and it's a maiden. So the score remains 173 for 2.
Yeah, so I managed to, when the KSL was still a thing, I think, which was the first kind of women's domestic competition, tickets for someone around my age at the time, I think, were £1. So it was kind of the thing you get your friends to go all along to. And I think Bristol on just any day, because it's, especially for county championship and those kind of smaller games when there's a smaller crowd, it doesn't feel like a small crowd, because the the ground almost feels like a warm hug, like a very cosy ground, and it just feels bigger and louder than it is. And yeah, I'd say Bristol, a hug.
Yeah, that's good too. That's yes, a nice warm hug at Bristol.
Not much you'd be saying that to about Bristol. It's Mohammed Amir in, and that's down the leg side. Felix Organ has a waft at it, but I think he gets a word from his captain, who's just shaking his head and gone, it's not worth it.
Well, there isn't a leg slip in there now, so having moved the leg slip to second slip, now we've had a delivery down the leg side.
I think Mohammed Amir is employing the art of confusion, where if by every single ball he's changing the field, in the sense that you said to bring in those short catches to make the batters change their style, I think he's just trying to confuse them, as defending off a length is Organ for no run.
I would love to believe there was as much at play at that. I mean, I think what he is trying to do is I think he might be trying to get this ball to reverse, but unfortunately for him so far, it's only involved him pushing the ball with the wrist too far down the leg side, at least on that occasion. But I'm going to watch this a bit more carefully as far as what he's trying to do with the ball, because could be one explanation as to why he's been a bit too side to the wicket. Now we've got a third man out.
Only one slip in play as well, as on the front foot defending as Felix Organ into the offside. So it's an interesting field now. We've got the fine leg, third man, both out on the boundary. One slip in play, those two close catches almost at short extra cover, short mid-wicket, and then the conventional field around that. And reverse swing seems to be the only solution here. But speaking of that third man in place, we have got a third man related email which asks, I'll wait for the suspense actually after this delivery. I'll start with the first sentence.
I think the suspense is already there for me.
I'm glad to hear that. As Mohammed Amir in, and that has a reverse swing. That's a Yorker flicked off uncomfortably by Felix Organ. He's just nudged that almost into the leg side, and that was just waiting for that replay. If we do get a replay, hopefully, but very, very full. And that first hint, maybe of reverse swing?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Last over, I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Because of the way that it's the way it's going. It's going the same way as Amir would probably try and get it to go with a new ball, but I'm not sure. But then he could be holding the ball the other way around, of course. So we won't know whether it's one or the other.
Who knows?
I think a bit less likely, but who knows?
As Mohammed Amir in and defending his Organ, Vince, apologies, back to the bowlers. This email asks, and I'm going to pose this question to you, Ed. What is it about not having a third man in modern times? It appears to afflict test teams as well. Is it because it's thought of as being defensive? But I would have thought it was, handy for the situation. I've replaced the word handy because I don't know how to say this word he's used, and that's from Bill Seeger. It's a very simple word.
Emeritive.
Imperative, maybe? I think imperative.
I think it could be. I couldn't see the full sentence, so if it were a word, then yes.
Mohammed Amir bowls, and this is full, driven by Vince to mid-off for no run, and that completes the over. Hampshire 174 for 2. So what do you think, Ed? Why don't we see more third mans?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure. It certainly does seem to have been a thing, and I think it's, I don't know, people seem to get more annoyed with the fact that there aren't third men in place now than they used to. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'm not sure exactly. It's certainly annoying when the ball goes through there from a bowler and a spectator's point of view, but no, I don't know, to be honest. I think in this situation, as Warner continues and bowls, and Organ looking to open the face of the bat and guide it away, but picks out Tom Lace at backward point. In this situation, I'm sort of wondering which fielder do you take out to put in the position at third man? I mean, you kind of got to have the mid-wicket because he's bowling very straight. Equally, I don't know. potentially trying to create a catch with that short extra cover position. Could you take him out? Which would be a very defensive field if you did that. Take the cover out. Warner in, and Organ pushes the ball away out into the cover region. There's no run. Kevin James back alongside me. I think you'd better take over, Kevin, because I'm not quite hearing the cue in my ears. So I think you'd better take over.
Yeah, I'll do an update very shortly. Thanks. Well, we keep going for a little while. They'll eventually work it out.
You could just kick me or something if I'm going on too long.
I wouldn't do that.
I heard the.
I would never do that.
I could hear it faintly, but only faintly. There's a sort of ghostly. Well, it was almost as if I could hear it on the wind from from Southampton. In comes Warner over the wicket and bowls. And once again, Organ looking to try to work the ball away behind square on the offside, but he's picked out Tom Lace again. And then there's that irritated swoosh of the bat from Felix Organ. Demonstrative out there. He's got 79. And 179 deliveries. It had been a bit of a vigil, but he's got his innings moving now, and I think he'll feel as if he's, well, despite the annoyance after not getting that ball away, I think he'll feel as if his scoring rate's going along just fine. Warner, ball short, pulled away out towards deep square leg, and diving forwards, Goodman manages to knock the ball down, but can't effect the catch. Was in just ever so slightly late there, and don't know if he'd actually have been able to get there, but he did seem a bit late off the mark. They managed to get a single, 175 for 2.
And it's 175 for 2 here at Hampshire, and Felix Organ and James Vince are putting together a partnership which so far is unbroken on 111. Felix Organ is 80 not out, just the 5th time that he's passed 50 in his first-class career. James Vince is 54 not out, the 4th time he's passed 50 just this season. In fact, Felix Organ very nearly holed out there to a short delivery from the man bowling now, Jared Warner. It's a good pitch here. Hampshire should score big here in their first innings. They're 175 for 2.
Well, I don't know. It's one of those moments really that he works so hard for. He bowled pretty much every ball full and straight. Then the short ball comes as a surprise. Organ had not managed to get a couple away into the offside that he'd hoped to get away, and then that happens, and you just hope that things fall your way, but it just didn't quite. Warner bowls short wide, and that's chopped away by Vince through wide, third man for 4 more. I don't think a third man would have stopped that one, even had there been one. But that's the first genuinely bad delivery that Warner's bowled in this second spell back. But once again, hits to James Vince, and he's not going to miss out on that. And it's 179 for 2 at the end of the over.
He just spoils it every now and then, doesn't he, Jared Warner, with just a poor delivery. And when he bowls line and length, which is all you can do on this pitch at the moment, this ball is 56 overs old. It has never done lots, even when it was changed at 76 for 2. You just have to, I'm afraid. There are spells and there are times in games where you just need to bowl line and length. And when he does do that, he looks like a bowler. And your captain says, well, the captain thinks to himself, great, you know, I could get 5 good overs out of him, you know, in a spell, maybe 6. But when you keep doing that from time to time, it makes your captain think again. But up until then, this second spell's been much better than the first. I'm losing my voice here. 179 for 2. Amir, who's...
Can I get you a lozenge? I think I might have a lozenge.
Have you? I just noticed it then, actually. I've got a bit of a cold, which doesn't help. But, yeah. Here's Amir, then. Left arm over. Bowls to Organ. He cuts that away, and that's well fielded at backward of point. A little bit of width there from Amir. Just every now and then, Amir just pitches one up that just shapes, doesn't it, really? And it looks dangerous, and it's a bit quicker than the others. Other than that, he's happy to bowl sort of line and length. He hits the deck a little bit harder than most, but he's really sort of grown into this innings, his bowling, hasn't he? He's got better as the innings has gone on.
When he tries that Yorker, he gets a fair amount of movement on it.
Yeah.
I think at some point he's going to have to bring it out. You know, it's going to have to be a case of he's going to have to bowl it once and over because that seems to have been his best delivery.
It's a real toe cruncher as well, isn't it? That's straight. That just shaped a fraction into Organ, who plays it quite nicely off the front foot back to the bowler. We have, what have we got after this? 39, so we've got 7 overs to do after this till tea.
It's going to be a late tea.
A little bit hard, a little bit behind, even with a bit of spin.
Yeah, but I think he got, I'm not going to name names, but there are a couple of bowlers with some relatively long run-ups, and I think it takes a fair while for them to get back there. So
yeah, there's a few teams like that.
Overrate is, Gloucestershire were bang on in the last match.
So we're a bit unlucky here then. That's driven. Tried to shake that one Amir by pitching it further up. That didn't come back quite as much. It doesn't come back a lot, but at a decent pace which he bowls, it's a dangerous delivery one. Not everyone is swinging, but by pitching it further up, it gives it more chance to swing. I
forget which it was, whether it was day 2 or day 3, where we closed 15 seconds late. 15 seconds past 6. I don't think I've experienced a finish as early as that before.
I pray for finishes like that.
They almost got in an extra over without meaning to, I think.
We're looking at half-6 here, aren't we? That's with so many overs left, it could be later. He's round the wicket this time, Amir. Slightly slower as Organ pushes out the covers. Wants a single. No, says James Vince. And that's a good bit of fielding. Who's that lying on the deck?
It's Dom Goodman. He did well, but he sort of went down a little bit like a felled giant sequoia. And but he did well, not to take anything away from him, but it was, I'm not entirely sure he was meaning quite to tumble to the ground exactly the way that he did, but he's actually been good in that, and I shouldn't say that possibly with that tone of surprise, but it's not often that you see a quicker bowler at backward point. Is the reason that I'm saying it with a sense of surprise, but he's been quite good in there.
Yeah, I agree. Now we've got to change of field here. We've got a leg slip coming in, which might suggest Amir might drop a short delivery into Organ. He was out that way in the last game here against Jimmy Anderson. Amir bowls. There's the short one. Organ ducks underneath that one. It swings a bit as well as it goes through to brace. He could take from him, dive in low to his left, and that is the end of the over. 179 for 2 then, Hampshire. There's been no wickets to fall since lunch. Organ has 80, Vince 58, and we've had, what, 57 overs? Oh, it's not the end of the over. Tell a lie. Why did I think that was the end of the over? Oh, the umpire's changing from the leg side to the offside. So I just looked up and thought, oh, end of the over. Which it isn't, because we've got one more ball left. The leg slip is still in for Organ. Will this be another short delivery from Amir? Short it is, and he plays that, and it's not very well. And he's lying on the floor on his back this time, as somehow he put his bat in front of his head, and fortunately for him, it just went straight to ground rather than the ball looping up, and that ball followed him. He didn't play it particularly well. It was a really good short delivery and a bizarre end to the over.
It almost looked as if, and I only managed just to catch the replay, almost looked as if it hit the handle of his bat, the actual handle. The hand had come off it, and then well, I mean, that could have gone anywhere, as you say. And just so again, an example of what a top quality bowler can do on a surface that is offering nothing. He's got, well, I say offering nothing, I mean offering pretty much nothing, and he's created something with Yorkers, and he's bowled a short delivery there which really seemed to surprise Organ, even though, like you say, when you even said it, is this going to be another short delivery, it would kind of been too much from the front of his mind that it might be short. Now, we've got a third man in place. This will please some people.
Yes.
And they've taken him from that short extra cover position. So Tom Lace is down on the third man boundary, and here's Warner continuing, and that's left by Vince this time. Quite a rare leave, it's got to be said. I don't think we've seen too many of those, particularly not from the far end as we look at it from the hotel.
But yeah, just going back to, I mean that's why, you know, you pay your overseas players a little bit more money, because they are able just to do something a little bit more different than the others. And you're right, it's the full delivery which shapes in, and then it's a short ball like that. I mean, obviously Felix Organ hasn't played the short ball particularly well, not just this game, but last week as well. It's something he needs to work on. But, you know, Amir's found a problem there.
Yeah. Warner in and bowls to Vince, who's forward and defending back to the bowler. Yeah, I think it's obviously something that they'd identified quite early, something I identified even before the match, because they went so early to bowling short, even in Amir's first spell. In fact, it wasn't even Amir, was it? It was Higgins.
Higgins, yeah.
They even bowled short at him with Higgins, trying to get him out that way. So that really shows you it must have been something that the analysts had picked up on and suggested Gloucestershire might try. Warner moves in and bowls in a half of the bat this time from Vince, but still solid enough connection to send it out towards square leg. Goodman in off the deep square leg boundary to do the fielding, and it's 180 for 2 with that single. Vince on to 59. Elsewhere, Essex are 134 for 2 against Yorkshire, so going along quite nicely with Sir Alistair Cook, 62 not out, and Paul Walter, 42 not out off 140 balls. Bidding in for the afternoon. Here comes Warner, he bowls full and straight. Organ pushes up to mid-off for no run. Warwickshire are 161 for 4 against Lancashire. Sorry, that suddenly went quite West Country for a moment. Warwickshire, something like that. Anyway, Sibley is 72 not out of 181 deliveries. So there are some innings being played. Matt Parkinson's taken 2 wickets. Those of Sam Hain and Will Rhodes. Chris Benjamin's playing in that one for Warwickshire, so he's there with Sibley at the moment. Warner bowls, and Organ on the front foot, playing quietly to mid-off for no run. Surrey are 143 for 4 against Northamptonshire. Rory Burns, 73 not out. There's 3 wickets for Proctor that I mentioned this morning. And Ben Folkes caught behind off Tom Taylor for 16. So Sam Curran out in the middle with Rory Burns at the moment. Pretty handy looking batting lineup for Surrey. How many of them will stay intact? I'm not sure. Warner, last ball of the over, bowls short, wide, cut away by Organ. He's not got a huge amount of timing on this. Laces around from the third man boundary to field, but they've managed to come back for 2. Oh dear. Throws bounced off the gloves of Bracey as it was a half-volleyed throw, and then I think it hit Felix Organ. Not very hard, but it did, I think. And 2 runs to end the over, 182 for 2. Division 2, Leicestershire 152 for 2 against Glamorgan. Hassan Azad has just been run out for 64. At Hove, Sussex are 225 for 1 against Middlesex, and Pujara hasn't even got in yet. Pujara and Rizwan still sitting in the hutch at 225 for 1. Tom Alsop scored a century. I'm sure that'll please many locals. And Ali Orr is 99 not out.
Wow.
So much for that Middlesex bowling attack. Shaheen 1 for 61 from 17 overs.
Is that at Hove, that game?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. Blake Cullen's playing. He's bowled 10 overs for 43. Martin Anderson 12 overs for 53.
Here's Van Buren with his left arm spin round the wicket. And that's cut away by Vince. There was a man deep. So it is just a single. Vince moves on to 60, 183 for 2.
And Durham are 201 for 2 against Worcestershire. Sean Dixon, 98 not out.
Some flat wickets around the country then. Mike Martin tweeted just a few minutes ago, actually, at Solent Sport, as Van Buren bowls, brings Organ forward, plays it back down the pitch. He tweeted as Tom Alsop was in his 90s. Never quite fulfilled his potential at Hampshire, says Mike. Is his loan long term? Well, it's a season-long loan when he left here, so certainly longer than the others are out on loan, as that's played to mid-wicket and there is no run. Mason Crane a month at Sussex, and the keeper Lewis McManus up at Northants. It's a month loan. I mean, they must be running out. They have to be renegotiated indeed if that's what's going to happen. That's played out on the offside and there's no run. I'll try and find out a few more details about that over the next few days. I think Mason Crane, well, certainly these 2 rounds of championship fixtures. Of course, the T20 starts soon as that's played out. Oh, and the umpire gets in the way there at square leg. It wouldn't have prevented a single, but is that a Jeet Dale?
Yep.
Banging into umpire Ben Debenham.
I would certainly have backed him in that collision, that's for sure. He's a strong lad.
That's good because Ajit kept his eye on the ball, you see. He didn't see the umpire there at square leg as he banged into him. 184 for 2. It brings Vince back on strike. These two came together when the score was 64 for 2. That was Nick Gubbins, LBW, 20 minutes before lunch to Amir for 30. One of only 2 wickets that fell this morning. None at all this afternoon as we head towards tea. As Vince drives pleasantly out into the gap in the covers, they'll jog through for a single, and Vince moves on to 61. Hampshire have got things all their own way here at the moment. It is a good pitch. It's a much better pitch for batting on than last week, although the pitch did get easier for batting generally as the game went on. It was just that first hour and a bit that was hard work, and Lancashire certainly exploited that to the full with Hampshire at 40 for 5, but the ball has never behaved at all today like it did in that first hour last week, and Hampshire, I think certainly James Vince very relieved that he won the toss, because of Graham Van Buren, as we said earlier, would have done the same.
Yep, and I don't, you know, as we said at the time, well, not at the time obviously because we weren't on air, but as we said when we went on air, not really a day where it felt as if anything else could be done when we looked at the surface, knowing the forecast. Warner continuing, and Vince works the ball out to deep square leg and picks up a comfortable single. Moves on to 62, 186 now for 2. I think one thing that did strike me this morning, and it's still very much there, is there's this kind of strip down the middle of the surface of green, and outside it is decidedly not green.
No.
And that hasn't seemingly had any kind of effect whatsoever, but it looked interesting this morning, and I wondered whether it would have any effect at all, and it certainly doesn't seem to have done. Warner bowls, flicked away fine. There's work to do for Amir down at fine leg. He'll just about keep the tiptoes inside the touchline and get the throw in, but they've come through for 3, and 189 for 2 as Morgan moves on to 86. Just a little bit too straight, and
yeah,
I mean it's been tricky really again for Van Buren to know where to turn at times, because it looks as if they want to keep Goodman's spells quite short. He's bowled a 5 and a 4. Amir can't bowl all day. Warner bowls full, driven hard, and a good stop of the follow through, doing the belly flop there after stopping it was Warner, and he managed to knock it down. But yeah, without Zafar just to throw the ball to and say bowl all afternoon, it's tricky, because you know you would just love to have both the quality seamer and the quality spinner, but there we go, you can only have 2 overseas players for a reason. As Warner rounds at the end of his mark and comes in once more, bowls full and straight, and Vince on the front foot playing it out to Van Buren in the covers.
They had a little bit of an iffy period, didn't they, about an hour ago or so, Gloucestershire, for about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, where it just threatened to get a little bit ragged. But I think actually they've tightened it up a little bit better since then. I mean, Hampshire have added 119 in this afternoon session with, what, 4 overs to go after this. So you're probably looking, if they keep it, money perhaps the same, about 130 run session, maybe 125 run session, which isn't bad, but you know, it's just about okay.
Warner in, drags the length back a little bit, but Vince is not troubled by that one bit and defends back to the bowler.
Because it is, you're talking about 2 guys that are in, so that's, you know, it's not easy in itself. It's not like you've taken a couple of wickets and some new batters are playing themselves in. You know, especially Vince, who, you know, will punish you if it's not in the right area. So I think on the whole, Gloucestershire have been sort of okay, but I think that 20-minute spell also didn't help, did it?
Yeah, no, and also in that 20-minute spell, it was kind of preceded, I think, by that edge that went through between first and second slip as well, somehow. Warner bowls and looking to run the ball down to third man this time, Vince, but he's only succeeded in running it to Scott at backward point, and that ends the over. 189 for 2. There are 4 more overs left until the tea interval. I wonder if Graham Van Buren might just be tempted to throw the ball to Miles Hammond before tea break. He's been used a little bit this season. Admittedly, has yet to pick up a wicket, but he's bowled 26 overs. Just wonder if Van Buren's thinking about maybe just get to tea, or you know, if Hammond, he will throw the ball up there, maybe force him into something.
4 overs till tea and 20 overs till the new ball as Van Buren bowls, and wrapped on the pad there, Organ, as he tried to turn that away on the leg side. It's gone to Ajit Dale, and there is no run.
Oh, agony. Ali Orr is out for 99.
Ooh, that's horrible. It's foolish and dug out by Organ on the onside.
Oh, dear me. Especially if you just watch your partner get to 3 figures as well.
99, eh?
I think it's the last ball before tea there as well.
At least he got 99, I suppose. Here's Van Buren again. Back foot there, Organ. Plays that back to the bowler. I think what I like about the Hampshire batting this afternoon is it feels like they are batting for the long haul. They're not blocking, you know, saying, well, we're going to bat till whatever it is tomorrow, as Organ pushes out on the offside. But I just get the feeling that generally, all right, we talked about the Vince edge through first and second slip. That's going to happen from time to time, and Organ's played a miss once or twice and such like. But I think on the whole, you get the feeling as though their mindset is to bat long and bat big, as that's driven back but not timed by Felix Organ. It's just an impression I get.
Yeah, I think you're right, definitely.
Just wear the Gloucestershire seamers down a little. They'll come again, of course, with the second new ball. That'll come after tea. Lovely shot off the back foot. Crack past short extra cover. Ryan Higgins. And that is 4 runs. A little bit too short there from Van Buren, who looks a little bit disgusted with himself with that delivery. And at the end of that over, it's 193 for 2, and Organ moves on to 90.
He's trying to give the ball a rip, Van Buren. He's trying his best. There's just not a lot of turn out there, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's dragged it down a little bit, because I think if he were... There's a couple of things maybe, whether it's just trying to give the ball a bit too much of a rip, it gets stuck in the fingers and you drag it down short, or whether he's actually used to bowling a lot quicker than that, and if he's bowling his usual kind of stump to stump arm ball type, you know, overspin type left arm spin, you could probably get away with dragging the ball down a bit with that, because you might be able to beat the bat of a pace, but he's bowling it a lot slower, so it's just going to sit up and ask to be hit, and it was. Warner in to Vince to start the next over, and Vince turns a single out to deep backward square leg, and the score to 194 for 2. Vince to 63, so Hampshire will start to be able to tick off those bonus points, and they come in pretty quick succession, or seemingly quick succession, when you get up to that 200 mark. 50 runs go by, especially the rate that James Vince is going, 50 runs going by in not too long a period of time. Here comes Warner, tall action, and he's driven by Organ, but straight to mid-off, and there will be no run. Organ also on to 90.
Exciting. Exciting for him.
A lot of milestones coming at once.
Yeah.
Potentially.
22 years of age, Felix Organ.
I notice his first-class high is bang on 100 as well.
Yeah, so against Kent, actually. I forgot. I thought it was against Warwickshire, his first game when he opened 2019, but it was actually the next game. Kent here.
Warner bowls. Drive through the covers. Nice looking shot from Organ. That might go for 4. Goodman's after it, and in fact he is going to get there and just haul it back in, but they're through for 3 relatively comfortable runs. Ripple of applause goes round the Aegeus Bowl. There's a decent sized crowd in, actually. There's a smattering of spectators around everywhere, but spread out over the entire bowl. There's actually a decent number in, and they've been entertained by this partnership in particular. Organ on to 93, 197 for 2, as Warner is in and bowls, and left alone by James Vince outside the off stump.
That's good to see. That's good to see. That shows to me that Vince knows that this innings, this first innings, is important to get a big score on the board, put Gloucestershire under pressure, because this looks a good wicket. And once the ball gets soft, Even when it was new, it looked a good wicket, but it looks it looks really easy to bat on there.
You can get too hung up by bonus points sometimes as well. I mean, you can accelerate the innings from a position of strength tomorrow if you need to. Warner is there and bowls full, driven to mid-on, not timed perfectly by James Vince, nor placed. Goes straight to mid-on for no run. But in their last match, were in the field for 165.4 overs.
Wow.
In the previous match, they were in the field for 166 overs. So it's not going to take as long even as that to wear them down.
Wow. That will take its toll.
Warner bowls, driven off the back foot by Vince, but to Scott at point, but it's a no ball, so 2 more runs to the total, 199 for 2. But even if the some of the bowling options are different, if you're the likes of, well, Miles Hammond, Tom Lace, Marcus Harris, in standing out in the field for all that length of time, this is the general feel of the team. There's still going to be a fair amount of continuity there, and the scars will be born from those last 2 matches. Warner bowls, back foot drive, that's a nice looking shot. He's got it through the gap between mid-off and extra cover. They'll pick up 2 runs, and that's it. But Vince moves to 65, but the total moves to 201 for 2, and that is a first batting point as well for Hampshire. It's 1-0 to Hampshire.
1-0 after a few hours. Try and explain that to somebody that likes football or something like that. That's right, 62 overs gone then, 2 to do until tea. Don't forget, there are several ways you can listen to us and watch us. We're on the live picture stream, which is being beamed from the Hampshire Cricket website. That's going through to Gloucestershire's website as well. And also you can watch on the Hampshire Cricket app, which is free to download. And of course we're on the BBC Sport online pages. Just go to the BBC Cricket page and go for the live action as Van Buren bowls and Organ works that to mid-wicket. And there is no run, fielded by Jared Warner, who's just bowled that previous over. Warner has bowled 8 overs, none for 41. Van Buren's into his 10th over now, has none for 31 as Organ pushes that back to the bowler as we get close to tea. It's been a good session for Hampshire. Better not speak too quickly, because there are still a few balls left, but generally Hampshire will have done everything they needed to do as that's turned away. Very fine. Singdale runs back from his position at backward of square leg. There's nobody on the sweep actually. Singdale is Ajit, I should say, is on the 1, but it was well to his right hand. So Organ moves on to 94. Vince back on strike. 202 for 2. Have to remember that 1 more wicket here for Gloucestershire, and they'll have picked up their first point in this game as Vince works that into the gap in front of square on the leg side. It does look fairly easy for Hampshire out there at the moment, and of course it always does when you've got 2 men who together are batting quite nicely and complementing each other nicely. And a pitch which is giving the bowlers now very little help. They'll be waiting for that second new ball. Down the wicket, it's in the air. Oh, and he's just past the diving mid-off. Slight mistake there from Felix Organ. I think he was trying to play that a little straighter. He'll get an applause because it's gone for the boundary, but that was catchable height. And fortunately for Felix Organ, it's a few yards left or to the right of the fielder.
Strange decision that. I mean, penultimate ball that he was facing from Van Buren in the session. Oh, goodness me, if he got out to that on 93 with, what, 7 balls now left until the break. Goodness me.
Yeah, his heart would have been in his mouth there for a little while, that's for sure. That's a length ball, which is quietly played out on the offside, not surprisingly. Marcus Harris, the man at mid-off there. I have to say, even when I saw that ball leave the bat, I thought, what have you done? Have you got that wrong? He did get it wrong, but he was trying to aim it straighter. He didn't get the elevation on that either, which didn't help. All in all, on another day, that would have gone straight to mid-off.
Okay. It didn't look a particularly natural shot for him, I would say. The charge down the pitch. It looked perfectly fine playing Van Buren from the crease, but There we go. Obviously felt it was time to get some runs. Maybe he just didn't want to go in to the break on 94. You know, try and get to the milestone. Warner starting a new over, bowling to Vince, who's defending away into the covers, and possibly after seeing that, James Vince might be thinking, right, I'm not going to trust you anymore. You're going to have to go in on 98. There's not going to be any more of that, thank you very much.
Well, we have Joe Weatherly with us after tea, so it'll be interesting on his thoughts on Felix Organ, whether he gets 100 or not. Of course, Felix Organ, the man that's replaced him at the top of the order. Joe Weatherly injured.
Here comes Warner. He's in and he bowls down the leg side, flicked away fine. That'll be 4 more. And Warner turns in annoyance, fury, but unfortunately, that's only yourself to blame if you're going to bowl there to James Vince.
Straight.
Yeah.
He's just got that one ball in him and over, hasn't he, Warner? It's, you know, it's not about bowling on green wickets and the ball seaming around. It's about how you bowl on wickets that are not giving you any help at all. When there's no swing, there's no seam, when you're bowling to 2 decent players, certainly in James Vince, it's how you come out of that. You might not pick up a wicket, but it's how you come out of it economy rate-wise.
2-11 for 2. Warner to Vince, who's forward in defence, and it'll roll out into the offside for George Scott to pick up from backward point. Haven't seen anything of George Scott yet. He can bowl some stump to stump, probably with James Bracey up. He would be another option that we haven't seen, actually. I've talked about Miles Hammond, who now we won't see. Bowling his off breaks, but George Scott would also have been, I think, classed as an all-rounder. Did a fair bit of bowling in his Gloucestershire time, but not so far today. Warner is in down leg side, and he's got away with that one. As probably the only reason he's got away with that is because it was too far down the leg side, and Vince's leg glance just couldn't quite reach it. But yeah, and it is, you know, you don't like to. Not saying it's a pick on anyone. It's just
no,
you know,
because I think the guy can bowl.
5 and over is unfortunately what he's gone for.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've never seen this guy bowl before, and I think he's at reasonable pace, and he's obviously got a decent action. I mean, he can bowl, but sometimes it's not just about that.
Yep. Warner in now and bowls to Vince, who just deflects the ball wide of slip, thinking about 2. Vince wants it, but they're not going to get it. Lace is quick across the turf, and so Organ will have 1 ball to face before the tea interval on 98. Vince, well, he hasn't taken his gloves off, but he could do if he so chose. He's on 71, 212 for 2. So are they going to think about anything particularly different here for this last ball? Try and give him a short ball potentially, see if he wants to go after it. Anyway, last ball before tea. Warner into Organ, who's beaten. And that was probably a much better choice of delivery to go with than the short ball I suggested, as he just tried to feel at it, was thinking about maybe trying to run it away fine on the offside for the 2 runs that he needed, but missed it. And the end of a very good session for Hampshire. They started it on 70 for 2, and they finish it on 212 for 2.
Thanks very much, Ed. Myself, Kevin James, Ed, and Melissa Story will be back with you for the evening session. Joe Weatherly, I think, was coming up during the tea break as well to have a chat with us. But as Ed said, good session for Hampshire there, with Felix Organ 2 runs short of a 2nd career first-class century, and James Vince 71 not out.
Glamorgan and James Vince.
Welcome back to the Ageas Bowl, where we are a few minutes away from getting the evening session underway on day one of this County Championship Division 1 fixture between Hampshire and Gloucestershire. Hampshire won the toss this morning, batted first, and so far so good for the home side. They are 212 for 2, 64 overs bowled, so effectively 16 overs to the second new ball should Gloucestershire want that. You would think they will do, because Felix Organ and James Vince are going along nicely. Felix Organ is 98 not out, James Vince is 71 not out. They've put on 148 unbroken so far for the third wicket, and Hampshire scored 142 runs in that session this afternoon and didn't lose a wicket. Your commentary team this evening, shortly we'll hear from Hampshire's injured opening batter, Joe Weatherly. He's up here, ready to go shortly. Ed Seaborn from BBC Gloucester and Bristol will be with us shortly as well. But to take you through this next period of play is myself, Kevin James, and former Vipers Academy all-rounder and TMS commentator Melissa Story alongside me. Melissa, it's certainly been good so far for the home side, hasn't it?
It has been an absolutely dominant first two sessions for Hampshire, and we've spoken earlier. Gloucestershire look a little bit lost for answers here, and hopefully for a Gloucestershire supporter's point of view in this tea break, they've had that chance there just to kind of have a regroup, think about what tactics they can employ here to get some wickets. But of course, Hampshire's session so far, Felix Organ, he's poised on 98 not out. James Vince, the captain at the other end, 71 not out. As in as Higgins to kick off this session, and the ball goes to backwards point. Gloucestershire coming out here with a bit of energy on that first delivery. Always a good indicator when you see the fielders running into the middle, throwing the ball around. And Hampshire just looking to continue this partnership. Of course, Felix Organ has that personal milestone in mind, just the 2 runs to take him to only his second 100, if he can reach there. But James Vince on strike at the moment as Higgins in, and this is cut away down to third man for a single. 213 for 2. And Higgins just can continue leading this attack. He's bowled so many overs in this county championship so far. It must be well over, I think, nearing that 150 overs mark so far. So persisting away for his team, which of course has been plagued with a few injuries early on in this season. As he comes again, and this is cut away by Organ for another single. 1 run away now, and I think there's a few members of the crowd have started to remember just where he is now, but it does bring up the 150-run partnership between Organ and Vince. Organ contributing 69 of those runs and Vince 72.
Yep, this must be getting up towards territory of a record for Hampshire against Gloucestershire on this ground. I'll have to check that shortly. No Dave Allen around, he can't be listening. Hampshire's honorary archivist, he normally texts me by now.
Higgins in and advancing down the wicket is Vince, and defending firmly back to the bowler.
I know there's 1 or 2 others, Tigger Miles, Mike Martin sometimes has those stats. So sometimes it's difficult to work out on this ground records. It's easy overall in the championship against each county, but separating them from this ground sometimes is quite difficult.
I'm very much still a novice with the archives and stuff, so I can't help you there. As Higgins in and defending off the length, it's James Vince. It's quite difficult to be able to bring up the stats quite snappily, but as you say, we've got a few Hampshire supporters. I can't even say it as well. But there, as you say, there's a few Hampshire supporters who are very, very helpful in that regard. Sorry, just about to witness Joe Weatherly sitting on a packet of jelly babies. Final ball of the over. Higgins bowls. This is back of a length, pushed to mid-off by James Vince for no run. That concludes the first over back after tea. No ball. That does not conclude the last over back after tea. Signal no ball. There has been a few no balls.
There has.
Which I have missed every single one of them.
There has been, I think that's the 5th.
Final ball then, and this is full and driven, and thankfully for Higgins, not expensive, as it goes straight to the fielder. And now that concludes the over. Hampshire 216 for 2.
So we have 31 overs left in the day. I think we'll be here for a little while over 6 o'clock. And the new ball will be due in 15 overs time. Looks like a Jeet Dale will... Is that Jeet Dale at the far end?
I think so.
Yeah, it might be, actually, yeah. So you would think that... well, Higgins took the first new ball, so he may not have too much with this one. Amir, I would think, will have...
I think it's
Mohammed
Amir here.
It is Amir, so he might just have a couple of overs or so and then take a break ahead of the second new ball. I think Gloucestershire want to see if they can get a quick breakthrough after the tea break. So it's Amir from the pavilion end, going to be bowling to Felix Organ, who's on 99. He's got 2 slips, comes in, runs towards us, left arm over, short, he tries to pull it, misses it, goes through to keeper James Bracey.
Now, this may be wrong, but the introduction of Mohammed Amir here, so close to when the new ball is due, could be a sign from Gloucestershire that actually they want this, the quick. They want Mohammed Amir to come in, bowl it short, introduce this new tactic here, whilst actually they could be considering Dom Goodman for the new ball. Because we did see, probably out of all the bowlers, he generated the most sideways movement. Whilst Amir, with his experience and that bit of snappy pace, can perhaps bring a bit more using the shorter ball tactic.
Might see 1 or 2 more yet in this over. It bowls, there's a short one, and ducks underneath, that does Organ. It's good pace with this old ball through to Bracey. Banging it in halfway down here, Amir. There isn't a man on the hook. It's Goodman is just a standard square leg. There is nobody out there apart from fine leg, which is a pretty standard fine leg, but nobody on the boundary other than that.
A risky tactic if Felix Organ, poised on 99, gets a hold of that delivery.
What's he going to do here, Amir? This might be the full straight one. No, it's a length ball, and there it is. There's his 100. Just dabs that down towards third man. It may not go, but it doesn't matter. Felix Organ won't mind about that, because all he's got is 3 figures to his name. Look at that. My word, he's enjoying that moment. There's a bit of a roar as well, and a flaying of the bat.
He is absolutely loving this moment and just taking it in. We saw there the passion, how much this means to him. Cheering first at the dressing room, and now he waves his bat around the ground to the Hampshire supporters. His second 100 for Hampshire.
Yep. His other 100 on this ground as well against Kent back in 2019, second half of the summer, when Joe Weatherly then was injured.
It may be a good luck charm in the most awful way. You've got to watch out for booby traps in the changing room now. Every time he wants 100, there's just going to be a little trap door.
I'm pleased for all of them when they get 100s, of course. And, well, Felix Organ did enjoy that one. Here's Amir then. It's a length ball, which Organ's in behind. Of course, in this situation, and it's very easy to say, but it's probably all about the next 100 here, because Hampshire are in a commanding position at 218 for 2. It's a good batting pitch. I don't think this second new ball is going to do too much, Mel. I don't know about you, but I think Hampshire have got a really good base here in which to get a really sizable first innings total and put put Gloucestershire under pressure.
I think as well they'll be looking whether this is the kind of game where Hampshire only have to bat once. If they can rack up a big enough total here, with the depth in their batting lineup especially.
Yep. Here's Amir. It's on the line of middle and leg, and that's turned to square leg by Organ. So Organ's 101 not out, just to bring you totally up to date as to where he is. And Vince, his partner, is 72 not out. Hampshire haven't lost a wicket since 20 minutes before lunch, when Gubbins was LBW to the man bowling now for 30. 64 for 2 Hampshire were at that stage.
And I'm really pleased for Felix Organ, because looking at some of his batting scores across the last 2-3 years, and since that 100 against Kent in 2019, he got 77 against Surrey in that same year.
Amir outside the off stump, and Organ leaves that one alone. End of the over, 218 for 2.
And then he also got a 67 versus Surrey in 2021. And he's got those 2 recent scores against Kent and Lancashire, where he was in the 40s, but he hasn't quite been able to push on in these last 2 years especially, and ever since that first 100. So now that he's got this second 100 on the board, he's playing with a lot more experience than he was in 2019. So who says there may be some more big scores on the horizon for Felix Organ, because we've spoken, his technique is really, really good against the new ball, but also he can capitalise when the ball gets that little bit older, the bowlers get a bit more tired. He has the shots to play to really punish the bowlers, as he has done today.
Certainly has. Melissa will do one more over, and then we'll bring Joe Weatherly in at the end of this one. I'm supposed to be doing a quick 30-second update in a minute, but I'm sure that will come shortly. Is it me or you? I can't remember.
I think it's me.
It is you.
As Higgins bowls full and driven by Vince. This could be 4 runs. It races away to the point boundary. The fielder at third man couldn't get round to his right quick enough, and that was effortless from James Vince. An over-pitched delivery from Higgins, and dangerous signs already, or worrying signs for the Gloucestershire bowlers.
Yeah, they're not making much happen, are they?
Vince, 76 not out now. 1 slip in place for Gloucestershire as Harris bowls, and on the front foot defending is Vince, back to the bowler. So 30 overs remaining today, of course, so lots of potential for Hampshire to just keep piling on the runs here. They'll be looking to keep building this partnership.
Higgins at the top of his mark then. Just at the boundary off the first ball of his over. Well, Hampshire are setting themselves up here for a sizable first innings total. They're 222 for 2, and Felix Organ opening the batting instead of the injured Joe Weatherly. Has passed 3 figures. He's 101 not out, only the second time he's passed 100 in his first-class career. And James Vince, the captain, not far behind. He's 76 not out. Hampshire piling on the pressure here. Only the 2 wickets that have fallen. Ian Holland for 2 and Nick Gubbins for 30. Both those before lunch. So Hampshire haven't lost a wicket since 20 to 1. They're going along nicely here, 222 for 2.
Just a little bit of chat there between the fielder at mid-off and the umpire there about the ball again as Higgins in, bowls left outside the off stump. A bit of a waywards movement.
Yeah.
Out just towards that.
Bit of shape.
Single slip fielder though.
Yeah.
You just feel that, especially after the break, they always say that drinks brings wickets. So the tea break may bring wickets. It'd be nice to see just that second slip in there, but again, we spoke, Gloucestershire may have adapted their tactics already to focus more on those LBW dismissals. But Higgins is just keep pushing away outside that off stump, as pushing off the front foot as Vince down to third man for a single. Moves the score on to 223 for 2.
A couple of questions coming in for Joe already, which we'll mention to him when he's on at the end of this over. Melissa taking a well-earned rest since tea.
I mean, it's been a very strenuous 3 overs of commentary this. I may need to go have a lie down, to be honest. As Higgins in bowls, and defending off a length is Felix Organ, apologies, and that completes the over. Hampshire 223 for 2.
Thanks, Melissa. She'll be around a little later, as will Ed Seaborn, but wait for Joe just to plug himself in there, as they say in commentary land. And put you in there, Joe, and we'll switch you on there. And Joe Weatherly, nice to see you.
Afternoon, Jamie. This is all right, isn't it? It's beautiful up here. Wow.
It's a good view, isn't it?
Got lost on the way, but now I'm up here. It's brilliant. And now Felix has got his 100. I think he was a little bit nervous coming in at tea, but
was he?
That'll be a big relief.
Because you were in the dressing room at tea time.
Yeah, I popped in. I don't think any batter wants to be 98, 99 not out, and yeah, he'll obviously be really relieved now. It'll be a happy change room, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Well, he played one shot just before tea. I don't know if you saw it. He was just about to run, and then somebody's in the away dressing room actually has moved a door, which of course then shines and what have you in the batsman's eye line, or batter's eye line. I think we're all right now. So that was definitely a Gloucestershire changing room manoeuvre there, which is now rectified, and that's a length ball by Amir, and that pushes out in the offside, and there's no run. He played a shot, didn't he, just before tea, where he came down a wicket a pace and then hit a shot through mid-off, and it could have been on another day caught. It was catchable height, and it looked as though he was trying to get 100 before tea, didn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think when you're edging close, particularly with an old ball, tired bowlers, I think, you know, we all know how much it means to all of us, but to Felix particularly, like you saw with his celebration there, just, you know, he's played beautifully, and you know, you saw how much it meant to him, and hopefully he'll be looking to kick on for a big one.
Yeah, well, in a good position here, Hampshire, 223 for 2, as Vince gets a length ball. He's quite happy just to play quietly back to Amir. Now, first things first, your finger, is it, or hand, or whatever, because, I mean, as soon as I saw you when you walked in, I thought, whoa, that is a horrible metal thing across your... Which finger's that one?
Yeah, the middle finger on the left hand. Yeah, it looks bad, but it's actually not so bad. It's a bit overkill from the physios, I have to say. The boys have given me quite a bit of stick already for milking it, but there's a little fracture there, but I don't think it'll be long, JMO.
Sure. That's good news. because you've been in good form this year as Amir comes in and bowls, and that just comes back a fraction at Vince, who squeezes that out behind square on the leg side. They will get a single. Total moves on to 224 for 2 now, and Vince moves on to 78. So was it, how did you do it? Was it in the slips?
Yeah, it was in the slips last week. Obviously took a couple and shelled a couple, and it was one of the ones that I shelled was a little bit sore, and didn't necessarily think instantly that it was bad, but it sort of materialised to be quite bruised, battered in the second innings, wasn't right, and we got it scanned, and it was fractured. So
did you know in yourself that something was wrong? Is that difficult to tell sometimes? As Amir comes in and bowls, and that's whipped away by Organ down to fine leg. That should only be a single, and it is. And the total moves on to 225 for 2.
I find it really difficult to know. I mean, I had my ankle at Taunton a couple of years ago, and equally I didn't know then, and I sort of carried on. And I think maybe with muscle injuries, you might think you know instantly, but with bone injuries, it's kind of like we take so many blows that you don't actually know if it's just sore and you just try and get through that game, and then when the dust settles, I guess you have a scan and you obviously hope for the best. But yeah, sometimes there are fractures, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, I was surprised when I heard the news yesterday, and here's Amir bowls outside the off stump, and that's left alone. I mean, I have to say, I know, listen, everybody drops catches, of course they do, and you've taken some good ones this year, but it happens. I thought you'd been taken out because they said, oh, Joe, you've got to come out the slips now, but it wasn't that.
Do you know what, when I moved out, I thought, I know how this looks. But trust me, I'm hurting. But I know, get Wedley out of there. Dropped the two bloke that got runs in a tight, low-scoring game, and Wedley's out just like drifting at deep square with one hand. So I did think that when I went out, but I promise it wasn't the case.
Of course it wasn't. No, you've taken some good ones this year, that's for sure. Oh, he's back on the pad. That looks close. Oh, and he's gone. That's nipped back at James Vince, and I have to say, even from up here at a slight angle, that looked mightily close. Every now and then, Amir gets one to come back. And I don't know, is that pitched outside leg stump? It's close either way. Vince goes for 78, Amir picks up his second wicket. What's your thoughts, John?
Yeah, it does look pretty close. I think the question is whether Amir has brought that back, or he's obviously over the wicket. I don't think he's swung too many today, and from that angle he'd need to bring it back. We're just seeing on the replay again. Yeah, it's close, isn't it? We saw Gubbins' one was also close, that was maybe hitting leg stump. I think that's maybe similar, maybe pitched on line, maybe hitting leg stump. I wouldn't say it's hitting middle halfway up. And Vincey will be disappointed because we know how quickly Vincey scores when he's in. He's actually taken his time today, which is actually rare and a sign you know how much he wants it in the first innings when Vincey's taking his time. But that's a real shame, because I think the game was set up, 12 overs before the new ball for Vincey to get to his 3 figures, and for Felix and Vincey to really put on a massive partnership. But that can happen. It's obviously an important phase of the game now with a new batter. As I say, just 12 overs before the new ball. Gloucester will be thinking, to get a couple of new batters in for that new ball if it is to do anything. But that's a shame.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yep, 78 James Vince gone for, and they put on 100. That you think he's in this for a biggie, isn't he?
Definitely. I think when Vincey takes his time. I think it was the same. I batted with him at the Oval this year, I think first or second innings, and when he just takes those first 20-30 balls and he's leaving balls outside the off stump, and he's just got that look in his eye, you think Vincey wants a big one here, and normally he's hitting balls that you and I would dream of hitting for 4, so that's a real shame. Yeah, definitely.
All right, the new batter is Liam Dawson, but he's at the non-strikers end because that completed an over for Mohammed Amir. He's 15 overs, 2 for 40, the left-arm seamer. And here's Ryan Higgins to start a new over from our commentary end. Right arm over, and bowls to Organ, who leaves that one alone outside the off-stump, and there is no run. Now look, before your injury, it's going pretty good for you, Joe, wasn't it, this season? Career best 168 in the first game here against Somerset, 87 second innings against Surrey, which of course not easy getting runs in a game where you've been well beaten. It's gone well, hasn't it? Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I think all of our batters have got runs at different stages, which has certainly been pleasing. It's often a good place to bat here at the Ageas Bowl.
Here's Higgins again, who's playing a missing outside the off stump, just getting that ball to wobble a fraction here, Higgins.
I think I don't know if there's been a tangible shift from above, but we have played on better wickets this year, like early stages. Obviously this looks pretty good, and our batters have enjoyed it. I think all of us really have scored 100 maybe now, maybe apart from Ian Holland, who's got an 80, which is, as a batting group, you know, we know the bowling group we've got. If we can get enough runs consistently, that's going to put us in really good stead.
Higgins again, bowls forward is Organ, out into the covers.
You know, we got so close last year in September, and, you know, that definitely took a while to get over. But look, I think the team's in a really good place. The core bunch, you know, you've got the likes of Brad Wheel and Mason Crane missing out. Felix, you know, is such a great team player to have, because he's doing this role, loves it, such a good team player, and is doing well.
Higgins in again, bowls, that's well left outside the off stump, once more by Felix Organ. It's I've got a question here actually. I just saw it just before you came on, so just let me. My computer keeps turning itself off from time to time. It is a question from Joe from Ian East at Solent Sport. I noticed with his batting this season that he was better at turning good balls into runs. Is that something that Joe's worked on over the last few months?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Just let Deep Square go out.
Yeah, is there going to be a short ball to Felix Organ? Higgins did let him have a couple of short ones early on. That's way down the leg side. Good diving stop from Bracey.
I think definitely. I think I took a few learnings from the white ball stuff last year in terms of maybe just looking to score a little bit more. The pitches have been tricky at times over the last few years, and I think as an opening batter, you've got to look to score. Otherwise, in bowling sort of friendly conditions, you've got nothing really. So I've certainly tried to be a little bit more positive.
Higgins again to Organ. He's angled that in, and Organ works it away on the leg side where there's a gap. He moves on to 103 now, and the Hampshire total to 26 for 3.
And yeah, just turning, sort of looking for more scoring options whilst also trusting defence. I think that's what good top order batters do, obviously. And you know, it helps playing on better wickets. But I think I told you early season, Jem, I put a lot of work into my red ball game, and that's part of the frustration of this hand injury. Whilst it might only be brief, was I felt like I was sort of trending upwards in that regard. So, look, I think there's plenty of cricket left this summer, but certainly I felt in a decent place early season.
How long have they sort of said that you might be missing?
So typically they say a fracture is 6 weeks, but in 3 weeks it's healed a pretty decent way, and the 3-week mark is the Somerset game, so that may be touch and go. It's lucky we've got the week off next week.
Amir bowls, and that's flicked away by Organ down towards fine legs, gone quite quickly. Just a single, 104 now for Organ. It's 227 for 3. So yeah, Somerset of Taunton, which starts on the 19th.
Yeah, so that will be 3 weeks. That will be maybe a push, and then the Blast is the week after that. So in a lot of ways, it's quite fortunate that we've got the week off next week. I think it's come at a really good time for us. We've put a lot in these early season games, some tough games, the Lancs game, the Surrey game. And Somerset are always quite tough, I think, at Taunton. So that'll be a big game for us before the Blast. So I think next week's week off comes at a good time.
Yeah. Here's Amir then. Bowls, and Dawson leaves that one alone outside of off stumps. Just going back to sort of, technique-wise, you were saying about scoring runs, and that question from Ian East then. I mean, I think it's generally reckoned that your technique is pretty good, isn't it? I mean, I think that's fair enough. And do you think sometimes it can be a case of you almost trying to perfect your technique too much to negate these early season pitches to the detriment of actually doing what, at the end of the day, it's all about is scoring?
Definitely. I think it has been challenging at the top of the order, but it's almost going back to basics. As what is batting? It's defending the good ones and hitting the bad ones.
Here's Amir bowls. He's wrapped on the pad. That certainly looks as though it's going down the leg side. They'll come through for a leg bye. Just wait for the umpire to signal, or does he? Yes, he does. So it's a leg bye, 228.
It's interesting here. I think they've found a bit of movement after tea. I don't know if it's reversing or swinging, but I haven't watched loads today. But certainly that ball to Dawson has swung back. I noticed Higgins swung one back to Organ in the last over. Yeah, I mean, it's been the talk of the town, top order batting and 4-day cricket and all of that stuff. I think Nick Govins has been a really good influence on our changing room as a whole and the batting group.
Amir in again, and that's just dabbed nicely down towards third man by Felix Organ. Organ played that quite late, moves on to 105, 228 for 3.
He's brought a real positivity, and actually Nick, I'd say a few years ago, was playing Lions cricket and was really trending upwards in terms of playing for England, and then he's had a few years where he's battled, and I think he's come through that now, and he looks like he's really, we saw last week, just really knows his game inside out, and has almost come full circle as that opening or top 3 batter, and seems to know his game really well. And I think he's helped me in a lot of in a lot of ways, just as he's just those couple of years older, just have that confidence, I guess.
Dawson facing Amir, full. He's gone for the Yorker there. Dawson works that up towards mid-off. He's gone for that swinging full delivery again there, Amir. That's quite interesting. I'll tell you what, I know it's easy to say this about somebody that's scoring runs, but Gubbins at the crease now just looks a more confident. I don't know, there's something about him in the middle now than there probably wasn't there even last year, and even when he got that 100 at Cheltenham. There's something about him this year.
And I think the county schedule, you know it better than anyone, JMO. It's one of those when you're going well, the game comes so thick and fast that you just bounce from game to game, and when you're confident, there's no better place to be. Likewise, if you're struggling, games come thick and fast, and you can battle. That's just the nature of it. But Gubba's playing beautifully at the moment.
He is. Round the wicket, Amir has got a man just there, actually, where Dawson's prodded it to, who's literally about where Amir finishes on his follow-through on the offside. That's George Scott, who's rubbing the ball at the end of that over. 229 for 3. Organ has 105. Dawson, the new batter, has faced 4 balls and yet to get off the mark. Joe Weatherly, Hampshire's injured opening batter, is alongside us for a little while. It's always good when you get the odd player comes up and just has a chat. So I know you haven't played on this pitch, but generally you're saying that pitches at the start of the season you think have been better.
I think so. We want to play on good pitches. We were a bit concerned. I think a couple of days out, this was looking a little bit green, a little bit soft. And as I say, we want to play on good pitches. And Simon, the groundsman, I know with AD Birrell's input, really wanted to get the moisture out of it, to play on better wickets, because we feel we're a good team. We feel we're competing to win the championship, and we want to play on good wickets and back our team to beat anyone. Last week against Lancashire, 2 brilliant teams going at it, and we want to have that battle.
Sure.
And we feel playing on these kind of pitches will have success more times than not.
But then Dominic Goodman comes up. There's 10 overs, by the way, to the second new ball. Here's Goodman bowling to Morgan. That's outside off stump, and that's left alone. The first hour, though, it was hard work last week, wasn't it? We didn't see the same here. Now, is that the bowling? Is it the pitch, or what?
It's a good question. Last week was tough. When Vincey won the toss and batted, I think I gave him a bit of 20 minutes with Jimmy at the top of his mark in cloudy conditions. But yeah, it's a funny one. Pitches with moisture here can be new ball wickets, but the life seems to go out of it with the softer ball.
Here's Goodman, right arm over, bowls. Organ just defends out on the offside.
As we actually saw last week, it was tough with the new ball, and then at times it looked quite flat when Gubba and Brownie were going, even when Salt and Bailey were going. It's not an exact science, is it, wickets? And I guess the risk is, like, this one looks pretty docile, that you still want to be able to take 20 wickets, and it's fine if you bat first and you have scoreboard pressure, but this looks particularly sort of slow and flat.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks a goodie, that's for sure, at this stage, as Goodman bowls outside the off stump and left alone. But any team that can take 20 wickets at Canterbury can take 20 wickets on it.
J-Mo, I don't know about you, but I think that was the flattest wicket I've played first class cricket on. I mean, you probably didn't get as close as we did, but it just the feeling at slip when the first couple of balls went by Mohammed Abbas that sort of rolled to Brownie, it was like, oh my word, this is going to be a... And they felt there was more in that wicket than the week before at Lancs, which was remarkable.
That's scary. Outside the off stump,
because we knew looking at that game that it was going to be an attritional tough 4 days, and for them to say that they felt there was more in it against us than there was against Lancashire the week before, but that just shows, we just stuck at it that 4th day. At times we maybe didn't think that it was going to happen, but we stuck to our I guess our metrics, and as I say, we got a quality bowling attack, and we managed to find a way through. Just would have loved to have seen Lancs under pressure last week. Yeah,
Goodman again it's outside off stump, and Morgan's not tempted. Well, Lancashire got 506 the week before to Canterbury, so they obviously got nowhere near enough in terms of if that was a flatter wicket.
Yeah, but I think, I'd be interested to know what you think, Jim. I think we've had a pretty good start. We seem to struggle going to the Oval for whatever reason that is. That was a really disappointing week, but if we can find a way to get a win here, I think we're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I mean, listen, it's not my job to dissect why going to the Oval doesn't seem to be working at the moment, but it does happen. It's a length ball there, and Organ plays in behind that one, and that's the end of the over. 2:29 for 3. I mean, obviously there are people paid to work out why things don't go quite well at the Oval, but I mean, they happen from time to time, and next year you'll go up there and you'll smash it. I mean, it's just the way it is, isn't it? Sometimes there's no logic, although analysts and people do try and find some logic. Sometimes there just isn't. But I think, yeah, on the whole, you guys do look a good side, and you know, when you go around the country and around the grounds, you know, everybody says, oh, you know, Hampshire are there, and Lancashire, and probably Surrey, who should be there every year, but seem to sort of...
And I think we're starting to believe that. Although we didn't get over the line last year, I think there's a real confidence. The team is pretty settled, and we're starting to have a real confidence in ourselves and actually concentrate on ourselves rather than the opposition, and almost focus on what we're doing well across 4 days.
Well, Amir didn't come on long, but he did his job. He got rid of Vince. LBW for 78, and there's Ajit Singh Dale. Now, interesting, you would have played alongside Ajit when he was around for a couple of seasons, and made his debut in that COVID year of 2020, and it's nice to see him carrying on with his first-class career. I'll ask you, you haven't seen him bowl today, have you? Actually, I was just going to say what you thought so far. That's short outside the off-stump, and Organ guides that down to third man. Hasn't quite come out the middle of the bat, so there's only 2. Tom Lace running back and picking up that one. 231 for 3. So it's Dawson, isn't it? Sorry, apologies. Yeah, I wasn't sure what didn't know what to make of him actually in 2020. I think he's one of those. He was at a time when you think, well, is he going to kick on or isn't he? I don't know. I think Hampshire were probably forced into letting him go. But I mean, he's been okay here today.
He's done really well. He's done really well this year. I think he's a great kid, very popular guy, and we were definitely sad to see him go. But it's always great when they get opportunities elsewhere and you see them do well, and then you catch up with them, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Comes in and bowls. That's outside the off stump, and that's left alone by Dawson. Another one, yeah, a little bit of shape there. But I think another one that seems to have just looks as though he's a bit more confident out there, because sometimes players can not look as though they belong out there, and I think he might have been one in a way, but it was too early in his career. But I think, you know, out there today, I think he's looks like he believes, which is what it's all about.
It can be daunting, obviously, coming into the first team environment. I mean, second team is one thing, and that's where, you know, younger guys learn their trade. But I guess until you play and get that confidence and success, I think that can be hard to come by. But actually, definitely looks like he's a little bit more confident.
Yeah, definitely. From the pavilion end, comes in again and bowls outside the off stump, bit of bounce, and Dawson leaves that one alone. Shall I let you do some commentary at the end of this over for the next over? Yeah,
go on then. Yeah.
I know you'd like to. Because last time you were with us, I think it was way back at
Isle of Wight, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, remember that?
Yes,
that was a great week, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, we loved that. Notts, hot weather, Isle of Wight, perfect combination.
Is there a 50 over fixture?
Yeah, there's a 50. Yeah. Northants, I think it is this year. So
that'd be great. That was a really good. That was a really good week. A couple of years ago, they put on a great week for us. Yeah,
they did. Yeah. I think it's the first time I've ever gone to a game on a bus. Just picked up the bus, and quite easy from Newport down to the ground there. There's even got the chief exec to do that as well on one of the days, as Dawson pushes out to extra cover. The chief executive getting a bog standard public bus to the ground.
No comment.
231 for 3 then, Hampshire. You know, in terms of just going back to the wicket side of things, I mean, this looks as though it's going to be hard, isn't it? Hampshire have to bat.
But I think what we've got is definitely we'll try and bat once. I think what we've got is obviously 3 quality seam bowlers. We've got Ian Holland, we've got James Fuller, we've got 2 spinners. I mean, you couldn't wish to have, you know, add in Mason Crane to the squad. You couldn't wish to have a more rounded attack.
Sure. Dale bowls outside the off stump, and Dawson leaves that one alone.
And I think what we've got is, you know, James Fuller with an old ball can make things happen. Keith Barker can create some rough for Felix Organ. We saw that at Canterbury out of nowhere. You know, something started to happen. So I think we'll definitely back ourselves to take the 20 wickets, but we obviously need to bat long, bat once, and into, you know, sessions 4 and 5 tomorrow.
Yeah. See, Tom Alsop got 100 today for Sussex.
Brilliant. Yeah.
One of several Hampshire players out on loan at the moment. It's coming out of their ears at the moment with Hampshire players on loan. Here's Dale. Dawson off the back foot. Almost got it through the gap. That's a good stop at point. And they very nearly sneaked through as Marcus Harris, the Australian, there. And yeah, come on, pinged off the middle of the bat. So Tom Alsop got 100 for Sussex, I saw Mason Crane got a couple of wickets last week. He's on loan at Sussex as well. There's also Lewis McManus up at Northants. God, who's the next one out on loan? Wow.
We miss them. It's strange. We've got a little corner in the changing room, sort of out of the main changing room. There's a little, we call it the annex, that Tom Alsop changed in, Lewis McManus changed in, Mason Crane changed in.
Oh no!
And it's me and Gubbo, and it's pretty quiet around the corner. Right then, am I going to give this a crack? So Dom Goodman, who's a tall, fast bowler, right arm, runs in slightly back of a length, and Felix Organ plays that really well down to backward point for 1.
Of course, the other side of that is that if you're in the annex and 3 out of 5 have already gone out on loan.
Yeah, there's a bit. Me and Gubbo were sort of looking at each other like, you know, and it's definitely quieter around that little corner. But no, it's really good to see them doing well. Obviously, Mason and Tom together. Lewis at Northants. I think it just shows the quality of the squad, JMO. You know, that we've got guys that maybe aren't playing, but they're producing, you know, really good performances in first-class cricket. It's awesome. So Goodman to Dawson. There's a cover 2 slips in the mid-wicket. He's in and bowls. It's a good length, and Dawson just blocks that to the offside to cover for no run.
I quite like this bowler. I quite like him. I didn't like him as a batter last year when he blocked it out, but when we've mentioned
we played against these guys in pre-season, and Mason Crane was bowling to Dom Goodman, and he said he had PTSD after bowling to him last year, trying to get the 20th wicket, and he blocked it out. And he came on to bowl in pre-season and couldn't get it through his wall of a defence. And he's in and bowls, and that's a good length again, and Dawson leaves it alone. There's definitely a bit of movement after tea. I don't know if it's reverse or seemingly the conditions haven't changed too much, but there's a little bit of swing before the new ball. 8 overs to go.
There was nothing between lunch and tea, hardly anything to speak of. But you're right, it's definitely noticeable. There's just enough, isn't it?
No, it's strange. It's definitely strange. Just on Goodman, I know he's John Turner's friend. He goes to Exeter Uni,
right,
so they're good pals. So I think they've been playing for Exeter together. As he's in and bowls, and that's full. Dawson drives straight back to him. Can't get it through the gap, and Goodman throws it back to Bracey behind the stump. Yeah,
John Turner, who's fast bowler on the Middlesex staff. Middlesex staff, Hampshire staff. Is he full-time or is he...
He's at uni full-time and then comes to us as and when. Yeah, we've seen quite a bit of him. He's a really exciting prospect, actually. We've got a few young fast bowlers, him, Josh Croom, Ben Huntley, Harry Petrie, Scott Curry. It's really nice to see a crop coming through. As Goodwin's in and bowls, and Dawson tries to flick that away on the onside for no run, finds mid-wicket.
It's nice to hear, actually, isn't it? Because that's something that Hampshire have... Well, it's not quite worked, is it, in terms of quick bowlers?
No, but I think we can definitely see it happening now with, I think Charlie Freest and James Tomlinson have worked really hard at getting younger bowlers through, and now Graham Welsh has come in. I can definitely see in the next few years guys breaking in. As Goodman's into Dawson, that's a ball on a good length, top of off, and Liam Dawson just boxed that back, and that's the end of the over. 232 for 3.
Well, Gloucestershire have had a good period here, haven't they, since tea. James Vince LBW to Amir for 78. The 1 wicket has fallen to tea, but the run rate has just slowed a fraction. Maybe as Hampshire sort of build again here, even though Felix Organ is still there with 106, but that was quite a big session for Hampshire. 142 runs as well between lunch and tea. Gloucestershire perhaps not sort of keeping hold of the game perhaps as well as they might have. They had a little bit of a iffy 20 minutes or so, not long after lunch, but they seem to have tightened up here, helped by that little bit of shape on the ball, Joe, that you mentioned. Do you want to do another one?
No, you have to.
Okay, I'll do this one then. Ajit Dale then, right arm over with a second slip, really. Not a first slip, it's quite wide. He's going to take a quick single up to mid-off. Throw comes in at the bowler's end, but Dawson... sorry, Felix Organ has to jump out of the way.
I think they must have changed the ball, Jamie.
Do you think so?
Yeah, they must have done, because either we've missed something or there's definite movement there.
I agree, because there was nothing from the... Because they did change the ball at 76 for 2, and it did absolutely zilch. So maybe around that sort of just after tea break, maybe they have, but...
They're definitely going out of shape. We tried to change it a couple of times last week and didn't have much luck.
Yeah, tried several times.
Yeah.
Both teams, actually, didn't they? When the minute there wasn't a wicket for a few overs, it's like, let's change the ball. Here's Ajit Dale. Length ball, Dawson in behind that one, punches that up towards mid-off. I think last year somebody told me, or a couple of people said, it's not a great batch of balls this year. Are you
I think
finding
they say
the
that
same?
every year. It was funny last week, actually. We tried to change the ball, and we picked, or the umpires picked one that they felt was right, but it was a reader's. It was like a second grade ball, and we'd say, well, we can't bowl with that. That's not a proper Duke's ball, for goodness sake. But yeah, no, that last week they definitely went out of shape quite a bit.
Yeah. So you can change makes then, even if you change balls. Can you do that? I didn't know that, actually. Here's a deep Dale again. Dawson punches that into the gap through the covers. Lovely shot, just leant into that one. Didn't try and hit it too hard. It's almost gone to the rope, but not quite. It is quite a big boundary away to our right. And Dawson picks up a comfortable 3, and he moves on to 8, and it's 239 for 3. It's quite frustrating, though, isn't it? Was there one time, I can't remember if it was Lancashire or you guys, where it seemed like you must have gone through the whole box of balls before everybody agreed to it?
And they got to a point where we'd changed so many old balls that there were only good balls left. So I think that was even more motivation to change the ball, because there are only good balls left. So it's like trying to get this ball out of shape, because all the balls are pretty new now. So Nick Cook cottoned onto it quite quickly, I think.
Dale bowls, it's short, it's flicked up in the air by Organ. It's going down towards fine leg, and Dominic Goodman's underneath it, and he's got it. Good catch. And it's a shortish delivery there, and Organ just got a top edge on that one, and it went high in the air. Good catch there down at fine leg. Organ goes for 107. Nice from Ajit Dale, actually. Just gave him a little pat on the back, and one or two of the others in the Gloucestershire side also give Organ a pat on the back. As he makes his way back to the pavilion, he's out for 107, and it's 236 now for 4.
No, brilliant, Felix. Felix played so well. Him and Ajit, I know, are really good friends, so that was a nice touch from Ajit to just to say well played, because he has played absolutely beautifully. The team will be really pleased for him. As I said earlier, he's such a good guy, real team player, and obviously stepped up to opening the batting and scored a brilliant 100 today. He's trudging off now, but I think he'll be chuffed when he puts his feet up tonight. But yeah, we're going through a little period here. I don't know if it's me, Jamo, on the comms or that change of ball, but obviously lost a couple of quick wickets. But Brownie's a class player. He's made such a big difference this season already, coming in at 6. A player of his quality is just absolutely fantastic to have. So he'll be looking to pick off where he left off last week, because he played beautifully.
Yes, he did. Yeah, looks a real. Listen, I don't think Lewis McManus did too much wrong, but Ben Brown's, I think, has lifted the middle order to a slightly different level. I'll tell you what, I was just walking around at lunchtime by the nursery ground there, and Dale Benkenstein walked across. Have you had a chat with Benke?
Yeah, definitely. Benke's really friendly with all of us. Obviously, fond memories when he was here. He's a really great guy, and when he left, I think we were all a little bit sad. It was all a bit emotional. He was sort of going back, and so to see him kind of back at the Aegeus is a little bit strange. But I think a lot of us still keep in touch. So he's a really good guy, and fingers crossed he has a good little period at Gloucester. But obviously his lad Luke's at Essex, I think.
Oh right.
Yeah. So he's on the staff. So
yeah, it was nice to bump into him. He's still good value, isn't he? He was great value here. Enjoyed his company, and always in the thick of everything. Here's Ajit Dale, just like he was when he played. So that's a length ball. Ben Brown just plays that out quietly on the leg side. Ben Brown, as Joe Weatherly was saying, having a good season this year. 72 in the second innings here against Lancashire. A couple of big partnerships, weren't there, towards the end of day one there he was involved with. 157 in that, in the end, the only innings that Hampshire had at Canterbury on that very, very flat wicket, but it's still 171. It wasn't quite a career best. He was within just a few runs.
No, but his first 100 for Hampshire, and that was awesome to be a part of.
That's for sure. Length ball, which Ben Brown's in behind and plays that up towards mid-wicket. End of the over, 236 for 4 Hampshire. They've lost 2 wickets since tea, and what looked like, well, I suppose you always wish that the innings would sort of take the way that you think it will at 212 for 2, and you think, well, surely Vince will keep going and Felix will, but of course it doesn't always work like that. I think Hampshire still would take 236 for 4, but it could have been better.
Yeah, I think we said, this little period now, 6 overs before the new ball, it's definitely a period that we're going to have to manage, because Liam Dawson, Ben Brown, 2 obviously quality players. We want to keep these batters in for that new ball and manage the rest of the day. So it's going to be Goodman to continue from the hotel end. Yep.
Definitely.
Hotel end, yeah. So he's in and bowls. That's good length. There's definitely a bit of shape there away from the right-hander, and Dawson leaves that alone. Tell you what, it was a mission getting up here, JMO. Getting up the top. I was a little bit late because I got lost.
Well, there's that, and then of course, the lifts are locked at times, and then various things. I mean, you got to remember, I've been coming over here for about 6 or 7 years, and it's only recently that I've mastered it.
It's a great view, though. It's obviously a view we don't get to see very much looking back at the pavilion, but it's a cracking view. It's Goodman to Dawson. Oh, and there's definite movement away from the back there. I thought he edged that for a minute, Dawes. Just back of a length, tried to back foot punch, classical Dawson-style back foot punch, but he's just missed out.
Good shape on the ball there from Goodman. It's a different game than the afternoon session here, isn't it? There's a little bit more thinking to do as a batter. A little bit more respect to show to one or two of these balls, because there is definitely some more shape on the ball than we saw a little earlier.
Goodman's in and bowls to Dawson. I think that's the other one, the straight one or the innie, that Dawson manages really well to clip up to mid-on for one. There's obviously these two at Canterbury that put on a huge partnership. Was it a record partnership for the 6th wicket or something? But it was a pleasure to watch. They're quite similar, these two. They go about their business in a kind of a nuggety way that is an absolute pleasure to watch from the dressing room. And I think they played together at age group level 19s, and I think they get the best out of each other. So it's a nice little combination to have in the middle order. Obviously, two absolute quality players. So Goodman to Brown. That's again outside the off stump, and Brown leaves alone.
Yeah, that's. I've always enjoyed watching Ben Brown, even when he was on the opposition at Sussex. Always a gritty batter, isn't he? But I mean, he's a better than that. Gritty suggests that he's limited. He's not.
He's one of those that has been or is a nightmare to play against, and when he's on your team, it's just, it's a relief. It's brilliant. He's obviously a quality operator behind the stumps as well.
Yeah.
So it's Goodman, and this is a good length, and Brown could have been tempted to drive it, but it's rare that Brownie gets on the front foot and really looks to dominate. He looks to sort of play off the back foot. That's where he gets his runs, sort of cuts and pulls really strong off the back foot. So Goodman would do well to push it up a little bit fuller, but Brown is obviously aware to that challenge.
Mike Martin has tweeted a question for you here, Joe. I'll come to it after this delivery.
Yep, so last ball of the over. Goodman's in and bowls. That is full, and Brown does drive this time, but finds the man at point. Can't quite get it through. That's the over. 237 for 4 with 5 overs to go before that new ball.
Mike says, can you ask Joe how much he's seen of Tom Prest, and will he play first-class cricket this year?
Prest is brilliant. I think when you see a young player, you know pretty early on of someone of Prest's calibre. We saw him play in the Blast last year, at such a young age. The innings that really sticks out is that quarter-final at Notts. For someone, I think 19, it's quite a daunting big quarter-final, and he just takes it all in his stride. He's a really, really fine prospect, and I think he's going to play a lot for Hampshire. Whether he plays this year, it's obviously a strong team to break into, but I certainly hope so.
Here's Dale from the pavilion end, bowls. Dawson drives through the cap, through the covers. Not quite a half volley, but he's played that nicely, timed it nicely, and it goes for 4. Beautiful shot, Liam Dawson on the front foot there.
And he's a great kid as well. He's definitely he's had a lot of success early. He's obviously did really well with the 19s, but it just, as I say, takes it really within his strides. He's a really natural striker with the ball, and I think we know that he's going to play a lot for Hampshire, and as I say, hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Good lad, captain the England under-19s in the winter. There's Dale bowls. Got 2 slips here. Bowls, Dawson drives up towards mid-off, and there's no run. 241 for 4 here, Hampshire, and we have 4 overs after this until the second new ball. Are you right? How long do you want to stick around? Till 12:30 or just before?
I'm all good.
I'm just thinking, because I've got to do a quick 30-second update at 12:30, but if I come off, I've got to come back on in 15 minutes. I don't know if you want to do a quick bit with Melissa or with Ed.
I'm easy.
Do you want to?
I'm easy.
Melissa, do you want to do a little bit with Joe at the end of this over? I'll just do 15 minutes with Melissa. TMS is Melissa. You'll get a proper commentator alongside you. 2:41. Oh, sorry, you got a cup of tea? I'll get Ed on then. Ed can come on instead. No? Oh, Melissa's keen. She's very keen. Here comes... I haven't put you on the spot there, you're right. Here comes Ajit Dale. Leg always kept a little bit low as Dawson pushes that out on the onside. I'll have to come back on and I'll pass it anyway. So.
I bet you're looking forward to your week off, Jamo.
Yeah, I am. Although I've got a couple of Vipers games to do. Oh, yeah, which I quite enjoy, I must admit I do. Well, I think I've got Vipers games next week. But I am. Listen, I enjoy talking about you guys. Sometimes I do get fed up on my own voice, which I'm sure you guys do if you listen from time to time. You think, oh, that JMO's on again.
Try to avoid it, JMO.
I know. You're not the first person that said that. But yeah, sometimes, actually, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. You can probably hear it in my voice. And actually now, as we get towards the end of the day, it's starting to get a bit croaky. As Dawson drives up to mid-off, and there is no run. So next week, that's right, so you guys have got a week off. There is a Sri Lankan development game here, isn't there, against which I presume, well, I know you'll have the time off anyway, because you're in, but there is a Vipers game at Hove on the Saturday.
Yeah, so I think they'll use that Sri Lanka game to maybe play someone like Tom Prest. Yeah. I think that's a really good opportunity for some of those second 11 guys, Fletcher, Middleton, Scott Curry, John Turner, so that would be great actually for the fans to look out for.
I agree. I think they're playing a few games this Sri Lankan Development 11. I think I've gone around to a couple of counties. Let's play Back to the Bowler by Dawson. I think they've got a few games over the next few weeks. I've seen on the fixture list, so they're a pretty good tour for them. And the score's remaining here at 2:41 for 4. Joe's going to continue commentating from this end, at this near end. So, Melissa's nervous, can tell. She doesn't get nervous very often. Not when I'm on anyway, that's for sure. Here comes Ajit Dale. Comes in and bowls again, and Dawson drives, and it's well stopped at mid-wicket. And there is no run. What about the crowds this year? What are your thoughts on crowds generally so far from what you've seen?
Oh, well, firstly, it's great to have them back. Obviously, the last few years have been difficult. I think they've been pretty, particularly on weekends. I remember that Saturday last week when Gubbo got his 100. That was a particularly healthy crowd. But you know, we obviously love having them in, and it makes a big difference, particularly in the T20s.
Certainly does. I remember the early part of last year when it was like, that was a nice pull shot there from Liam Dawson. That's 4 runs. Got on it nice and early, just sort of rocked on the back foot and just pulled that through mid-wicket. That is 4 runs, 247 for 4. Dawson moves on to 14. Another word from Joe Weatherly, and then alongside him will be Melissa Story, former Vipers Academy all-rounder, and from TMS.
Nice one, J-Mo. So it's 247 for 4, just 4 overs to go before the new ball. Brown yet to get off the mark. It's Goodman to continue. I imagine they'll save up Ryan Higgins and Mohammed Amir for the new ball. As we said, they've found a little bit of movement after tea, which has obviously accounted for a couple of wickets, but obviously 4 overs to go before that new ball. So Brownie and Dawes will be looking to navigate that successfully. So as I say, it's Goodman to bowl from the hotel end, and that's trademark Brownie to get off the mark, just back of a length, just tucked around the corner, off the back foot to fine leg.
Has it been
hello, Melissa.
Oh, hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. I was going to ask, has it been strange, obviously, having Brown coming out into the camp from the enemy territory?
It was a little bit strange initially, but you've only got to spend 5 minutes with Brownie just to realise just what a quality operator he is and how good a bloke he is. He's fitted in really well, as has a number of our Ross Whiteley as well, who obviously we're yet to see, but he's fitted in really well, and Nick Gubbins as well. So I think Giles and Adi have done a really good job of strengthening the changing room, and obviously quality players, but also great people off it. So Brownie's done really well as he would, as expected. He's an awesome player, but it was slightly weird, obviously from Sussex, a bit different. So they've got a short catching cover on the offside for Dawes here, as Goodman's getting a bit of shape from the right-hander. He's in and bowls, and he's obviously looking to bowl outside the off stump. He's got a 6-3 offside field, and as I say, before this new ball, they'll be just looking to kind of dry it up and hang it outside Dawson's off stump.
I mean, what do you think of the tactics Gloucestershire are using now? Put yourself in the shoes of a incredible fast bowler. Not that you could be. I've not seen you bowl, but
I'm not.
okay, that's been confirmed. But what would you be doing in this situation?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Obviously, what they're doing now is in and bowls, and that's outside the off stump. They definitely found some movement after tea. There's just a little bit of swing, and it definitely looks a little bit more threatening. I think we felt that we had them in that afternoon session. The scoreboard was sort of ticking over really nicely, but they've found a way to obviously stop the flow of runs and to grab a couple of wickets. But they're just looking to shut down one side of the field here and just really look to navigate these 3.5 overs. As Goodman's in and bowls, and that's full. It's a full toss. Dawson doesn't quite time it to extra cover. Obviously, there's 2 senior bowlers, the Higgins and Namir, so I guess they'll be the most threatening with that new ball. So it's just a case of, dropping anchor and dotting Brownie and Dawson up until that stage.
You mentioned Ross Whiteley. This feels like an interrogation. I'm just throwing as many questions at you as possible.
As Goodman's in and bowls, and that's a bit straighter, almost a Yorker, but Dorsey plays that nicely to mid-on.
Because you mentioned Ross Whiteley, and of course this summer coming up you've got Southern Brave going to be with the 100 team. That must be exciting, of course, and it's interesting to see this Hampshire team almost morphing into quite a distinct red ball team and then quite a distinct white ball team. But as one of the players who's across the two, you must get quite an interesting perspective of what teams perhaps strong
for no run, and that's the over. 248 for 4, 77 overs gone. No, definitely. I think that's maybe a real strong sign of where we're at, is we've got identity in both red and white. I think this red ball side's been quite strong for a number of years now, and we're, as I say to JMO, desperate to win that county championship with those bowlers, Keith Barker, Mohammed Abbas and Kyle Abbott, really driving that. But then that white ball also found an identity last year, obviously getting to finals day. We had a tough start, but I think we found our way eventually, and I think the roles are a lot clearer now in that team, and Ross is only going to add to that. He did really well in the 100, and can't wait to see him in a Hampshire shirt, because he's a ripping fella and a really good cricketer.
I mean, it was quite the comeback for Hampshire, of course, with that T20 season, as Dale to continue in full, driven to the offside, straight to the cover fielder for no run, because I was keeping an eye on it. And of course, as we say, you were a bit disadvantaged having all those away games at the start of the season, but when all those home games kind of everything just clicked for Hampshire, and that game against Glamorgan where you had to chase down the total, I think in 12 overs or something. We were at a game that day, all crowded around this tiny screen, just desperately trying to follow. But as you say, it goes to show the determination of this squad and the depth that they have in both white ball and red ball, when eyeing up multiple trophies this season. Dale bowls, and on the back foot is Brown.
Definitely, and I think there are a lot of good moments last year. You mentioned those white ball, but there's also the red ball win at Cheltenham to get into Div 1. Obviously, that run we went on with the white ball side. T20's just such a momentum game. We got on that run and almost felt like we couldn't be beaten. And we'll definitely be looking to kind of replicate that this year and create moments like we did last year. Last year was such a great year, but ultimately we didn't win a trophy, and that's our aim. So that's what we'll be looking to do this year for sure.
Dale bowls, and on the back foot off a good length is Brown, defending back to the bowler. So there's a nice place in the pavilion, but there's a gap in a trophy cabinet, just waiting for one, or maybe two, preferably two, to come in from the season. And speaking from a purely selfish perspective, I would love for you guys to reach T20 finals day, because I got to witness the mascot race in person last year. And that's probably one of the best memories of my life.
That was a great day. Just to see, see those Harry the Hawk, Hawkie the Hawk go round?
One of the Hawks. Basically watching people who definitely aren't paid enough to run around in a costume in the sweltering heat, as that's edged, a thin edge from Brown. This is racing towards the boundary, and that will be 4 runs. A desperate attempt from the fielder down at a third man. It just ticks that Hampshire score along, 248 for 4. And a warm round of applause as that brings up Hampshire's 250 runs so far in this day. So despite that flurry of wickets after tea, it's still mainly and largely been Hampshire's day out there in the middle. just the 4 wickets fallen. And Dale just searching again to replicate that outside edge, but this time into the hands of Miles Hammond in that slip chord, as that's got a bit of extra bounce on that delivery outside the off stump and fended away by Dale. Oh, not by Dale, he's bowling by Brown. It's been a long day.
The sun's sort of just beginning to peep through. It's been cloudy most of the day. I was sort of wondering whether that was where that swing came from, but certainly looks like nice batting conditions now for Dorsey and Brownie.
Now, are you suspicious about how good the weather has been? Because this is a bit similar to, I think, the 2020 season, which obviously was a bit affected by COVID at the start of it, as Dale bowls, and this is a good length outside the off stump, punched off the back foot by Dawson for no run. Because I distinctly remember the lockdown walks in kind of March and April with such good weather, and same in 2021, really good weather at the start of the season, which descended into total chaos and rain just as all the games are starting to come into fruition in April and, well, more like June and July.
Yeah, no, it's obviously been a really good start to the summer, hasn't it? It was a shame, obviously, on Sunday, you know, we felt like we were in a really good position to put Lancashire under pressure in what was, you know, really big and important game, you know, 2 good sides. So it was really frustrating that the rain chose to come on that day, but you know, on the whole, it's been pretty good weather, and as I say, that's sort of helped to play on pretty good wickets. I know Gloucester have battled away on some pretty flat wickets, and the weather's probably contributed to that.
I'm not sure the Gloucestershire bowlers would be calling those good wickets after Surrey's 600 runs on the board, but I know what you mean. It's been beneficial at least to see so little rain affected matches, apart from, of course, that last round as a bowling change in place here.
Yeah, so Miles Hammond's coming on from the hotel end. He's got a sweeper out on both sides, just the part-time off spin. It's just tucked away by Brownie on the leg side for no run. We'll obviously be hoping that there's a little bit of spin for us to work with if we can get a big first innings score. You know, it'll be a big role for Dorsey and Felix to do a good job if we can get a bit of spin. But obviously Miles Hammond's just a part-time off spinner. He's in and bowls, and that's again slightly short. Brownie does well to just tuck that past mid-wicket for 1 run.
Last week in the Hampshire-Lancashire game, of course, Lancashire left out Matt Parkinson. Hampshire with Mason Crane on loan to Sussex, and Gloucestershire here haven't opted really for that frontline spinner. Is this common? Have you seen when you've been playing at the Ageas Bowl as a batter? Do you actually think that wrist spin would probably make more of an impact on a wicket like this, where it's a bit low, it's a bit slow already?
Potentially, yeah. Just Gloucester have made just a fielding change over to the leg side. Again, just trying to shut the leg side down, but there's width there from Hammond, and Dorsey cuts that away. I don't think it's going to go to the boundary, but he'll pick up 3. I think definitely, you know, wrist spin's got a role to play. The wicket last week was slightly seam bowler friendly, and I think that was a big part of why Matt Parkinson sort of didn't play, because he's a big part of that team. But potentially he would have enjoyed bowling on this wicket a little bit more. It looks a bit more batter friendly and looks particularly dry compared to the normal wickets. And you know, we've already had sort of 15-20 overs of spin today, so maybe a sign of things to come as that fielder from the leg sides move back over. It's a point for Liam Dawson as Miles Hammond comes in and bowls, and that's a good length, and Dorsey blocks that away to the leg side. And we just got just over and over to the new ball. I think Jamo's going to take me off boring the listeners.
No, not at all. Unless you want to start.
No, it's fine. As Hammond's in and bowls, that's down the leg side, but flicked away by Dorsey for no run.
It's because if they keep you on any longer, then you can legally ask to be paid. They're just avoiding here all the complications of you turning around and going, excuse me, where's my salary for that 1 hour of insightful commentary?
Hammond to Dawson, and that's again quite straight, and Dorsey flicks that away to 45 on the leg side for 1 run. And that's 4 off the over, just 1 over to go before the new ball, 257 for 4.
We were speaking earlier about fans' favourite grounds to go to. As a Hampshire away fan, I was just wondering, as a batter, if you've got a favourite ground, obviously apart from the Ageas Bowl, but a particular ground you like going to, where you're used to scoring runs at?
Well, typically the oval's obviously a good place to bat, but I was just saying to JMO earlier, we've struggled there. So potentially, other Test match grounds, Warwickshire at Edgbaston or Old Trafford are particularly batting friendly grounds. But I'm trying to think if we're going there this year, but potentially not. But
looks like Derbyshire's pretty good. Quite a nice batting ground this year with the likes of Sean Masood's 2 double centuries so far. As Joe Everly will be taking a slight break from commentary. And we'll continue with Dale bowling from that pavilion end, of course, to Dawson. And that's slashed away outside the off stump, but straight into the hands of the fielder at cover. And Hampshire 257 for 4, of course. Kevin James rejoins us.
Hello.
A very timid hello.
Great having Joe on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Talks well, plays well.
Commentates well.
Oh, just true all-rounder. Multi-dimensional.
As Dale in again to Dawson, full on the front foot, defended. Into the offside for no run. Things are starting to slow down a bit. We got that email in saying that Joe Everly had been a curse for the Hampshire batters with a few falling, but actually I think the curse is non-existent because things have just began to plateau just that bit more in these last few overs. As Joe said, the sun's shining over the ground now, so and that sense of stillness which the Ageas Bowl often brings in these evening sessions, just quite calm, peacefulness. Ed Seaborn is indicating to me a sleeping signal. He's ready to go to sleep as Dale in again and looking to hit this into the leg side was Dawson, but actually miscued it back to the bowler.
He's worked hard today, hasn't he?
He's also trying to avoid the sun in fear of being sunburnt. As for anyone who's never seen Ed Seaborn in person, he's got very blonde hair. And as a blonde myself, these weather conditions are fatal.
Are they?
Absolutely dangerous. 10 more minutes in this and I'll be burnt to a crisp. And again, and left outside the off stump by Dawson with an extravagant leave, the bat over his head in some kind of dance, and it's a no ball. I think that I've got an issue here.
Have you?
I'm not looking at the umpires, that's the problem.
Well, why should you?
And that's coming from the player himself. I'll take that advice from now on. When I get given out LBW, I just won't look at the umpire.
Well,
I'll just stay at the crease.
You have to.
No, but I'll say Kevin James has told me not to look at the umpire.
Yeah, but you'll know from the reaction of the players around you whether you've been given out or not.
Blissful ignorance.
Yeah.
I'll just close my eyes.
Got a slight delay here because Liam Dawson's been attended to by the square leg umpire. Was he something to do with his rubber around his bat handle? I'm not sure. That seemed to be the area that they were focusing on, but he's walked back to almost to his position where he stands and waits to receive the ball, putting his gloves back on. We'll be shortly getting back underway. We're going to be late tonight. I think we're going to be 6:30 at least.
Got my training to get to, but I think that starts at 7, so timing should work out well. As in again is Dale, and that's wide and left outside the off stump, rightly so by Liam Dawson, and James Bracey behind the stumps there had to dive extravagantly to his side.
You won't have to be here till 6:30. Don't worry about that. Me and Ed will finish off, so don't worry.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we'll give you plenty of time.
Preferential treatment.
Because you've got about a 5-day walk to your car.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to pick up some water supplies for the trek over there. Maybe set up camp overnight just to get there halfway. So it's a long way away, my car.
It is.
I'll tell you that.
The other end of the site, almost.
As final ball then from Dale, and that's even wider, and Dawson was lucky to reach that. He slapped it away into the offside. The ball comes back into the keeper. A wayward throw as well here, and things just starting to look like they're falling apart maybe for Gloucestershire. It's weird, this game is working in ebbs and flows of things looking equal to Hampshire dominating, to Gloucestershire just looking a bit weaker here.
I'm going to do a quick 30-second update, and then I'm going to get Ed to come in alongside you Melissa, and then do a little bit more, and then I'll finish off with Ed, and you can get to that all-important practice of yours.
It's very much needed.
Are you practicing catching tonight?
I should. I'll make myself practice that. As in again is Dale. Apologies, that wasn't last ball of the over, but this one has been scooped away off the hip by Brown. That's run away for 4. He moves on to 11. Hampshire 264 for 4.
16 overs left in the day's play. Hampshire still in their first innings, having won the toss this morning, elected to bat first. 264 for 4. Currently batting are Liam Dawson on 18 and Ben Brown on 11. That means we have lost since tea James Vince and Felix Organ. James Vince the first to go, LBW to the Pakistan left-arm seamer Mohammed Amir for 78. They put on 161, Organ and Vince, and then Organ went about 25 minutes later, caught off a skied pull down at fine leg off Ajit Dale for 107. So Hampshire still going well. They've lost a bit of momentum, 264 for 4. So what have we got here? The umpires are having a chat. There's another break. It's just prolonging everything. Melissa Story will continue, and alongside her for this next period of play will be from BBC Gloucestershire and BBC Radio Bristol, Ed Seymour.
An interesting statistic which I have found, which may point towards why Hampshire here in this innings, they found some success, and a lot of their batters are contributing, getting those big scores so far in this year's county championship. So just to take up a bit of time in this break. So across Division 1, batters are scoring at a strike rate on average of 49. Gloucestershire are scoring roughly around that average. Their batters are scoring at a strike rate of 46. Hampshire, on the other hand, they are scoring, well, the Hampshire batters, they've scored 2,038 runs at the start of this round, so it would have gone up a bit by now, but they were scoring those at a strike rate of 57.5, which is one of the highest across the teams in Div 1. So just points towards how Hampshire, perhaps compared to some of those other teams, they're still scoring at that high rate. They've put on a lot of runs, but also the rate at which they score, it just allows them and enables them to go apply the pressure onto the opposition bowlers just that little bit quicker, and then suddenly may contribute to their success. Ed Seaborn, welcome back.
Hi, Melissa. Fancy seeing you here.
I know.
Well, do you do those stats yourself?
As all 21-year-olds would, I get a little help from my dad.
Right.
I like the stats, but I'm not very good at maths. So as a combined team effort, we investigate and work out and calculate.
That's lovely. No, I like that. I don't. If my dad's listening, he probably is. I'm not sure we're going to be doing that anytime soon. But
over the table at Christmas, just right.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to assess Gloucestershire's
doesn't
strike
mind his
rate.
numbers, but I'm not sure really that would be necessarily what we would do. But you know, I absolutely admire that. Totally. I mean, magnificent. That's magnificent work.
It's one of the many ways we bond over cricket. The other way, of course, being him bowling very, very slow off spin at me in the net and me getting out all the time.
Ah, okay. I thought you were going to say whacking him all over the place.
Well, that's what happens in my head, in the dreamland, but unfortunately reality is so much more cruel. As that ball in from Higgins there, full leg stump line, flicked away from Dawson. He moves on to 18.
Yeah, they've taken the new ball straight away, Gloucestershire. No hesitation from Higgins and Gloucestershire. There was, in amongst all that delay, I think just whilst we were changing over, and there was a bit of confusion over that, there was a furious wave from umpire Saggers towards the scorers with it, so they have taken the new ball.
Higgins bowls, and that's past the outside edge of Brown's bat. I mean, we were discussing here, talking about team bonding, and they were changing the new balls. We missed quite an important detail there, but it's been interesting that there definitely seems to be a bit of dissatisfaction with the balls in this game. And in the last one here at the Aegeus Bowl as well, I think Hampshire changed the ball about 4 times, which we've spoken about. But there's a lot of pressure rests on selecting that new ball. Do you go for the darker one? Do you go for the one which you think would swing the most as Higgins in and off the hip from Brown into the leg side for no run? Do you know any of the technicalities in the process of selecting a new ball?
Nope, absolutely not. No, I was a spinner, so I would select the one that I thought was likely to be the worst.
The
so I got the
rattiest
ball
looking
sooner.
ball.
Yes.
Used to be a spinner. I'm gonna drill you on that one as Higgins in down the leg side. Diving stop from Bracey. Was a spinner then, so no longer a spinner.
I'm afraid I'm the type of person that if I can't be good at something, I'm not interested. Why are you commentating then?
It feels like a comedy setup here this morning. This afternoon. As Higgins in and outside the off stump again from Brown, who's just on that front foot, prodding out on that fourth stump line. I feel the same way, but mine's arts and crafts. I have a very crafty family.
Okay.
And they're always like, oh, how about you paint something, enjoy joining with this craft, and I'll spend about 5 minutes doing it. If I'm not perfect at it,
Straight
it's
at the cricket
straight
stats.
in the bin. Yeah, straight back to the cricket stats. Higgins, final ball of the over, that's full and strikes the pads. A big appeal from the bowler here, but nothing from the umpire. I reckon Kevin James here has just suggested that was going down the leg side. Looking at this replay, there was some late movement there from Higgins, perhaps reverse swing almost in a sense, but if anything it may have been umpire's call on that leg stump. But
yeah, I think it's swung quite late, and I think the reason Higgins thinks it's out is because it did what it did so late, and I think if it hadn't swung as late as it did, then I think that finger might well have been raised from umpire Saggers. But I think looking at the replay, I think it probably did just do a bit too much. We've got another look at it. It's not a bad shout, that's for sure. Whether height was an issue potentially as well, not sure. Anyway, given not out, that's all that matters. Mohammed Amir is going to take the new ball. Not too much of a surprise there. He's grabbed 2 wickets for 42 from his 16 overs. You couldn't ask for too much more really from Mohammed Amir. This is not really a surface where you're expecting to charge through a side and take 5 for 30. Amir is in and angled away by Dawson out to Tom Lace at backward point, and there is no run. Yes, well, I did bowl a lot at school level. Was quite good, relatively, bowling wise. And then just as I started to get older, I started to become terrible.
Suddenly the tees become the best part of the cricket, and then you know something's wrong.
Yeah, but you see, I was normally too nervous to eat tea during playing. As Amir is in and bowls, and Dawson covers up in defence, sends it up to mid-off, and there is no run.
So a number of factors were all pointing towards perhaps that premature retirement, just to sit back,
I think so.
focus on the commentary.
Yeah,
maybe it was a sign from the
first,
heavens.
Actually, did a fair bit of scoring first.
With coloured pens?
Yep, sometimes. To be honest, most of the time I didn't bother, but I mean, you know, it looks sort of good, I suppose, but really get the numbers down, that's the important thing. In comes Amir and bowls wide of off stump, and Dawson has nothing to do with that one. Goes through to James Bracey. Yeah, I bowled leg spin, and I used to enjoy getting people out.
And then you start to progress through the age groups, I feel, and as the boys are getting a bit bigger who you're bowling at and a bit taller,
Yep.
and suddenly leg spin,
Thump.
yeah, then suddenly you're in the field next door searching for the ball you just bowled. And when that happens a few times in a game, then it can be a bit demoralising, I can understand.
Amir is in and dabbed away out to point this time by Liam Dawson for no run again. So 4 dots to start this over now from Mohammed Amir. But yeah, I think one of the things was it got to the stage where I probably had to bowl a bit quicker because, like you say, because they're starting to get stronger and actually they can pick off the slower deliveries. And I think it just got to the stage where I had to bowl quicker, and I couldn't really get my head around that too much. In comes Mohammed Amir, left arm over and bowls, and that's worked up to mid-on this time by Liam Dawson, and still no run off this over. Trying to build the pressure here, Mohammed Amir, with this second new ball towards the end of the day, and if Gloucestershire could nip out, say, 2 wickets with it, I think they'd feel pretty happy with the way that the day has gone. obviously this is a deep Hampshire batting lineup. You've got Keith Barker coming in at, Keith Barker's coming in at 8, Fuller in at 9. That is a deep old lineup. As Amir completes the over, bowls, and Dawson with a firm defensive shot. Back to the bowler in the end of the over. That's a maiden. Score remains 265 for 4. Dawson has 19 and Ben Brown has 11. But yeah, I mean, even one, just something to take with you. I think that what I'm imagining what they will say is those 2 wickets that they took before, well, roughly speaking, before the new ball, those wickets of Vince and Organ, they'll probably feel was reward for some tighter bowling in this evening session. So they'll say, right, we stuck at it well, got the rewards for it, but now with the new ball, you've got to strike.
Higgins bowls, and that's a straighter line delivery pushed into the leg side. I mean, it's been a pretty good day for batting across the whole of Div 1, because just to recap some of these scores across fixtures going on across the country of that Essex-Yorkshire game, Essex 230 for 3, so they were 56 for 2, and they've had a bit of a recovery with Sir Alistair Cook scoring another century. Is it too late to recall him into the Test side as Higgins in, pushed into the offside? Walter as well, not out on 85. Recently announced, was it Walter who said he would be retiring? Or was it Wheater?
Wheater, yeah.
Okay, I knew it was a W.
Well, you see, the thing is, they like that at Essex. It shows off the accent. You've got the likes of Walter, Wheater, Harmer, Porter, you know.
I dearly hope there's no Essex fans listening along to this.
Tender Scarter.
As Higgins in again and pushed off the back foot by Brown, a loud call of no to Dawson at the non-striker's end. You're going to be getting hate emails coming in now. Don't you dare say that again.
I'm not saying, I've not said for one moment that I don't like it. I say it just shows it off. It sounds, you know, the names for your county should sound like they're from your county. So they do.
Do you think the Gloucestershire names sound West Country then, as bowls and Higgins through to the keeper? That's a thin edge off the bat of Brown. And Higgins strikes with the new ball. The 5th wicket to fall for Hampshire. And just that little bit of shade caught the thinnest of edges on the outside edge of Ben Brown's bat. And the next wicket falls. A breakthrough for Gloucestershire.
Yeah, it's pretty much the perfect delivery from Higgins. There's not too much you could say that Ben Brown should have done there. He had to play at it because, you know, that's what you know with Higgins anyway. You know that you're going to have to be asked to play. He hasn't got too far across his stumps or anything either. You can still just about see off stump there, so he knows exactly where off stump was. Just the perfect ball just outside off stump, had to play at it, found the edge. And that's what Ryan Higgins does. He's a terrific bowler who's not quite got the wickets that he would have wanted lately, but he's got one there, and this is what I mean really. Now you've got the 5th wicket with the ball still very new, and you potentially, well, you've not potentially, you have got a lot more overs left with the ball still relatively new. I suspect it will probably get scuffed up relatively quickly on this surface, but at the same time, you should still have another decent period here where the ball's still going to be doing a fair amount, and now you can potentially, obviously, they can't, but supporters of Gloucestershire will start to get greedy and think about Hampshire being 7 or 8 down by the close now, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as that. It's just having got that, you know, they kind of did it not quite perfectly, because obviously they'd rather have had Hampshire more down than they were, but they got those wickets with the old ball, which was vital. New ball comes along, they've got one with it. Now is the time to press home the advantage with the new ball, and you've got somebody coming out who's not played a massive amount of championship cricket in recent times.
Of course, Nurin Donald to the crease for Hampshire. He's been out of the squad for a while, the first 11 squad, because of those ACL problems, but he's got some considerable scores so far this year for the Hampshire second 11. 109 off 73 versus Durham, and 143 off 117 versus Surrey. And he'll be on strike to Higgins, who bowls, and that's a leg stump line clipped off the pads by Donald, who takes a few steps down the pitch in enthusiasm and gets sent back. as that's fielded by
Warner.
There's a lot of tall figures in this team. I was trying to identify.
Yes, there are, aren't there? You've got the tall fast bowling core with Goodman, Warner, Dale.
Higgins, final ball of the over to Aneurin Donald, and that's down the leg side, flicked away by the new batter. This should trickle away for 4 runs, just waiting for that umpire signal. Leg buys, so off some part of Aneurin Donald's body and goes down to the boundary. Apologies, that was another no ball as well. I saw it that time, roughly, only about 30 seconds too late.
You know what, I'm
improving.
to miss them. No, I tend to miss them sometimes as well. Unfortunately, it happens.
Final ball then from Higgins, and it's a shorter ball, just worked away into the vacant square leg region. And Donald off the mark in his first game back into this full Hampshire squad. That completes the over. Hampshire 272 for 5.
But I think one of the other reasons why, especially at Bristol, he says making excuses for himself, but at Bristol you're behind the window and you can't always hear here I think just about every time I've heard the cry of no ball, but I think some of it is umpire specific as well. The effects microphone tends to pick up everything out of the middle at Bristol rather well, but I think some umpires are just better at shouting no ball than others.
Also, for me, I find the angle here at the Ageas Bowl, the score box, I believe, is almost to our right in the Shane Warne stand.
Yeah.
So sometimes when the umpires signal and stick their hand out, still facing forwards, you actually can't quite see the hand being stuck out. So I'm going to keep making petty excuses.
Well, I think, you know, the commentators' plights are not understood by enough people. Amir starts the next over, and Donald with a high elbow defending that away out into the cover region. There's no run. And the other plight I have, which I'm gonna get this out here now, is that I wish the bails weren't green, because 2 weeks ago at Old Trafford, in fact it could be the same here as well.
I think I can't actually see
yes,
them.
Can you see the bails from here? I can't.
This is like exposing a Mandela effect almost. I genuinely cannot see the bails, and you've only just made me realise that, because why on earth would they use green bails on a green surrounding?
Here comes Amir and bowls, and there's a flowing drive attempted by Donald, but he's picked out Graham van Buren, the Gloucestershire skipper, at cover, and there won't be a run. So there was a dismissal 2 weeks ago at Old Trafford where both, I'm going to throw Scott Reed under the bus as well because he's not listening, Scott Reed and I both thought that Tom Lace was out caught behind. Turned out the off bail had just been flicked, just the off stump, well, just the off bail removed, not the leg bail, and the umpire had gone straight up to it and put the bail back on without us noticing as well, as Donald drives uppishly and is caught by Van Buren in the covers. And that's the 6th wicket. Donald's just maybe hanging around for a moment because it was quite low down, but I think he's walking off. I think it's just disappointment rather than anything else. And he tried to get that drive away the ball before, tried to repeat the dose, didn't keep it down, and Van Buren takes a good low catch in the covers, and Donald departs for 1. That's 3 wickets now for Mohammad Amir, who's rounding out his figures rather nicely. 3 for 42 he's got. Hampshire are 272 for 6. Those fielding positions, which you spoke about as well, being one of those potential tactics Gloucestershire could employ. And we saw just with that delivery, perhaps Aneurin Donald, we mentioned his previous scores, they've all been of a strike rate over 100, so maybe just looking in this circumstance just to get off the mark a bit too quickly, score a bit too quickly, and it's not that kind of wicket. We've seen that batters have to be patient at the start of their innings and then the runs start to flow, as was the case of Felix Organ and James Vince, whilst Dawson, I mean, Dawson's got the right approach here. He's stranded there at the non-striker's end. He's 19 off 50. But he's really showing determination to survive that tricky period. But Aneurin Donald there, just not the patience required for this wicket. But if anyone's going to come to the crease, it will be Hampshire Player of the Month, Keith Barker, local legend, fan favourite, commentator favourite. Ah. There we go. Now that was the key one. No, well, I agree entirely with your assessment as far as the fact that I don't think you are going to come out on this pitch and play a load of shots. And goodness knows, over the years, watching enough cricket at Bristol, I've seen enough surfaces like this one. And this one, at the moment, who knows, might look completely different when Gloucestershire go out and bat on it. But at the moment, it's just looking like one of those surfaces where it's, as long as you bowl tightly, you should be able to keep the scoring rate dry. It's just, are you going to be able to create enough opportunities to grab the wickets? And trying to kind of manufacture shots early on in your innings when you're not used to the pace of the pitch yet, I think is another thing that is tricky to do, and I think that dismissal proved it. So Barker, left-hander for Amir to bowl at. He's in over the wicket, and Barker's forward very calmly, almost nonchalantly, and defending the ball out into the covers.
He's just such a calm presence at the crease, but simultaneously creates mayhem when he came in. But I think something like after the first 3 rounds of the county championship in Div 1, he actually had the highest strike rate. We always say he comes in for a good time, not a long time. So whilst he's there just defending the balls, he looks so calm, so, you know, secure at the crease, and then he'll whip out a reverse sweep instantly afterwards.
Amir in and bowls. Barker tries to drive, takes one hand off the bat, and that was a slightly suspicious looking shot. Maybe he should have brought out the reverse sweep. Maybe.
I mean, it would have flown away to the boundary if he had, but the thing with Hampshire's tail, they do bat deep with Barker, followed by Fuller. Then you've even got Abbott who can come in, but they are very much the types that, on a pitch like this, I'm not sure that get to the crease, start playing shots straight away, as we said, is going to work. So these guys are really going to have to adapt their approach, which they would normally take to kind of this circumstance. Hampshire's still only got 272 on the board. They're going to aim for a lot higher than that.
Amir to Barker, whipped away strongly. Oh, Higgins has misfielded. And, well, I suppose you could say, possibly he's misfielded it to allow Keith Barker to be on strike for his next over, because that was the last ball of the over. But it was a terrific one from Mohamed Amir. It spoiled what would have been a wicket maiden. I don't think Amir's going to care massively about the fact that it's not another one in the maidens column. And as I say, it does have the added advantage of meaning that Higgins will bowl the next over to Barker. But yeah, wicket in the over, potentially not quite how Gloucestershire would have drawn it up, but at the same time they'll more than take it after some of the things which happened earlier on. And the play and a miss as well towards the end of the over with Barker kind of out in front, reaching, looking to drive. That ought to encourage Gloucestershire as well, because I think, like you've been talking about, I think Gloucestershire will be quite happy to see Keith Barker playing a few shots here.
Higgins, who of course misfielded off that last ball of the over. He's in again. That's a straighter delivery, and it's fended away by the left-handed Barker down to fine leg, who gets off strike immediately. And just to quickly continue running you through those Div 1 scores, Warwickshire are playing Lancashire this week. They batted first. They're 263 for 6, so a similar position to Hampshire here, with Dom Sibley has got 100 there for them. He's 117 not out. The final other fixture in this Div 1, apart from this one, was Surrey Northamptonshire. Surrey are 228 for 5, following that century from Burns. So it's been a good day to be a rejected England opener, as Higgins bowls, and down comes the wicket as Dawson and pushes to mid-on. Burns and Sibley with both hundreds. It feels like we've got into the DeLorean and gone back about 2 years.
Can we add Sir Alistair Cook to the list?
We'll go back a few more years to it.
Yeah, well, I said actually this morning about how that group hadn't really been getting runs. Well, there we go. They've got them now.
As Higgins past the umpire and bowls on the front foot, is Dawson pushing back to the bowler. And looking from those wicket columns, Essex have only lost 3, Warwickshire 6, Surrey 5. It's unusual almost to not have at least one fixture where one team has been completely decimated. But here actually it seems to be a very good batting day for these sides in Div 1. Maybe
to be honest, in Div 2 as well, for the most part. Leicestershire are 7 down, but still.
Higgins in again and pushed off the back foot by Dawson. You can run us through the Div 2 scores if you'd like. I'll give you the honour.
Well, Leicestershire are 260 for 7 against Glamorgan, so match so far, which has produced the most wickets, and even there, 260 for 7 is not the worst score. Marnus Labuschagne has taken 3 of the wickets.
Bowling
I'm sure
spin
the
or
WhatsApp group will be
seam.
hearing about that.
As bowls does Higgins and flicked away to that fine leg by Dawson for another single. Because I mean, he was bowling seam at the start of the season. Is this spin now his conventional spin, or is it a bit of both?
I'd have to look at the highlights there, but he's grabbed the wickets of Sam Evans, Vion Mulder, and Scott Steele. 3 wickets for him. Sussex are 337 for 6 now against Middlesex. That is a collapse. They were 225 for 1. Well, relatively speaking, a collapse.
Higgins bowls and defending off a length is Barker into the offside.
Pujara just 16, Rizwan 31. Both those dismissed now. George Garton is at the crease along with Ollie Robinson. Mark Stoneman got the wicket of Tom Alsop for 113. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. So 1 wicket for... In fact, this is quite a fun thing. Middlesex have used 6 bowlers and they've all taken 1 wicket. Even Stoneman has bowled 9 overs and all 6 of them have 1 wicket. But a good comeback there from Middlesex, and the only other score is Durham 315 for 3 against Worcestershire. Century for Sean Dixon. Scott Borthwick is 76 not out, half centuries for Keegan Peterson and Beddingham as well. Amir continuing here and bowling to Dawson, who shoulders arms, and it goes through to Bracey behind the stumps. Kevin James is back along with me for the conclusion.
Been a good comeback this from Gloucestershire, hasn't it? Melissa's off to practice with the Hersey ladies tonight. She's captain there. She says she doesn't know half the players this year, so she needs to spend a bit of time with them.
Practicing bleeding tactically onto the ball.
Yeah, it's been a good comeback, hasn't it? Gloucestershire here. 4 wickets. 4 big wickets, certainly Vince and Organ, the 2 big ones.
Amir is in, and that's clipped away towards mid-wicket by Dawson. Should be a couple of runs here, and they will get them quite easily. Even Tom Lace with his speed across the... In fact, pardon me, it's not Tom Lace out there. It is Jared Warner. Yes, it's got to that stage of the day
bit different
where
in
I'm
pace.
mixing up those players. Anyway, 277 for 6. But yeah, I think those wickets that they were able to buy with that old ball,
yeah,
particularly the one of Organ, to get rid of the set batter. As in comes Amir, and he bowls left by Dawson, continues to move further away from James Bracey as he dives away to his right to take the ball. Took a really good catch this morning, James Bracey. That was the first wicket to fall. Ian Holland caught behind off Higgins for 2, and at 3 for 1 in the 3rd over, you just wondered whether it might turn out actually to be a decent toss for Gloucestershire to lose. But Hampshire, courtesy of mostly Felix Organ and James Vince, but also a bit of Nick Gubbins as well, have I think shown that batting first was definitely the right call. Amir in and bowls. Forward goes Dawson and pokes the ball out into the cover point region, where it is fielded by Tom Lace, and there's no run. Yeah,
no, you're right. Those 2 wickets at the back end of the first ball has certainly made a difference. I'm looking at the sessions. The afternoon session, Hampshire added 142 without loss. So far this session, with what, just over 10 overs left, 65 for 4.
Yep, and it's, you know, it goes back to the fact that the board was being controlled. I know that's the way that they like to say it anyway, so it's the way I've I've picked up. Whether that's the kind of trendy term, I don't know, or a term that's guaranteed to make people's eyes roll more likely, probably. Amir round the wicket and bowls, and forward is Dawson in defence, knocking the ball up to mid-on for no run. But yeah, I think the wicket of Vince, of course, with Amir proving his worth with that old ball, I think that was obviously the key one to break the partnership. But then relatively quickly after that for one to bring two, and it was a bit of a bonus, really. Obviously, you bowl the short ball hoping for something like that to happen, but for it to carry down to fine leg. As driving at this one is Dawson and misses it. He was looking for a fairly flamboyant drive through extra cover, and Amir round the wicket. Yeah, he just threatened to bring it back in on the angle, and then it just left him. And this is kind of the thing. It's still a new ball, and that was not really a shot that was in new ball mode, and that's why it's so critical to take wickets with the old ball and then get batters in against the new ball. That I'm not saying with Dawson's case necessarily, because he'll have been in early plenty of times, but you know, you get somebody like, without picking on him, somebody in like Donald against the newer ball, and maybe the game isn't quite as adapted.
Higgins around the wicket to Barker, who just prods that out just behind square on the offside. No, you're right. It's he just pushed at that. Alarming Donald, didn't he? Really, just pushed at that too hard, back too far away from his body, and unfortunately just paid the price. I've got an email here from Philip Wolf, whose son Ned is currently listening and watching, and he's at home recovering from an operation on a broken ankle and ligaments. He's hoping that Joe, who we had on earlier, Joe Weatherly, that's just prodded away behind square again once more by Keith Barker. He hopes Joe has a speedy recovery. We heard Joe Weatherly earlier say that hoping about 3 weeks, I think, to be back in action. I think he's targeting the Taunton game. And Ned's enjoying listening and watching the commentary, and see Hampshire's strong progress today. Well, it was strong. It's not quite so strong now, with Gloucestershire coming back into this, as that's whipped away by Keith Barker. That's through square leg for 4. A little bit too straight there from Ryan Higgins. Barker just swivelled round there and helped the ball square on the leg side. He does that a lot, Keith Barker. He moves on to 6, and it's 281 for 6. So get well, speedy recovery, I should say, then.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, sure.
He's a good lad. Yeah, he comes up here from time to time.
Ah, right. Well, Chris Dent, of course, suffering from an ankle ligament injury as well. That's keeping him out of this game. So
yeah,
he's not the only one.
There's a few injuries floating around, especially for you guys, isn't there? Really, 4 changes from Gloucestershire's last game as Barker prods forward up towards mid-off. Warner, Ajit Dale, George Scott, Dominic Goodman, all coming into the side for this game. Yeah,
3 enforced changes and 1 swap out. So, and I guess they could have gone with Jack Taylor. I think it was just a case of looking at the side and thinking maybe we need these extra seam options.
There's Ryan Higgins again. That's worked to in front of square this time, but there is a fielder there, so no run.
And I think you with all due respect, you've got some young bowlers there, and you've got some never mind young. I think it's more important inexperienced. You've got Warner, Dale, Goodman, all with, I think I can count individually on 2 hands the number of first-class matches they've each played.
Yeah.
So, you can't necessarily pile all the pressure on them to have to bowl 15 to 20 overs in a day.
Over the wicket now, Higgins, and Barker works that to mid-wicket. End of the over, 281 for 6, 9 to do.
So, Jack Taylor didn't even bat in the last match, so it's not as if he's done anything to kind of, anything obvious to warrant being taken out. He bowled some leg breaks, and I'm sure he would have liked to have landed a few of them a bit better, but that's not why he's not playing. And he's still, he's still in the process of trying to reinvent himself as a leg break bowler anyway. So I think it was purely, I would imagine, just a kind of a decision based around potentially a little bit also maybe what did happen at Old Trafford when the likes of Bohannon in particular and Villas managed to kind of knock Gloucestershire seamers out of the attack. So I think that's probably the reason behind that extra change. As Amir continues and Dawson tries to work the ball leg side, it'll be a bit cross that he's managed to pick out mid-on, because that's the only fielder saving the single on the leg side. They've just got a deep forward square and a long leg. out on the boundary as the sun continues to shine here, and I'm quite glad I've got this half of the table, I've got to say, because I can just creep over towards the right-hand side of it, and I can get out of the sun. I mean, Ian bowls very wide. It's left by Dawson. Well, obviously, were that a one-day game, then that would have been a wide, no question. But in this form of the game, it's almost got to be off the pitch for it to be called. Was that the case in your day as well?
Yeah, it's very similar. There's no difference really. No difference from that point of view.
Right. I only wondered because
if you can't reach it, you can't reach it. Don't matter what game it is.
Well, yeah, but then at the same time, if it's got to be completely off the cut strip, then it ends up being a no ball, doesn't it? So where's the line? Amir is in and bowls full and straight, looking for the on drive. Is Dawson, but he's not got it straight enough to get any runs for it, and it's picked up at mid on by Dale for no run.
He's been good, Amir, hasn't he, today? And I thought he was sort of just okay early on this morning, taking the new ball, but I think as the day's got on, he's got into his spells, got into the game almost, got into the innings, hasn't he? And he's been good, hasn't he? Been really good to watch. Yeah,
he's been very much valued today, as Amir is in over the wicket to the right-handed Dawson, who's forward and prodding the ball into the covers, and there's no run. And he's just shown exactly what a quality Test match level bowler can do on a surface that isn't offering much. He's put the ball mostly in the right areas. He's tried quite a few things as well. He got Gubbins with that terrific Yorker. But then for me, the key spell was that one where he came back and got rid of James Vince with that LBW, and he started to get the ball to move again. And I think it must have been reverse swing, even though he was getting the ball to swing back to the right-handers, as Amir is in and bowls. Dawson looking for the single as he works the ball leg side, but once again he's picked out mid-on and there's no run.
There's no room for Dawson to find an angle. It's really good bowling.
Yeah, but they just brought deep forward square up to a mid-wicket kind of position as well, so they taken away some of the easy single scoring opportunities on that leg side, but for me, that's that is where Amir has really shown his worth, and like you say, for that first spell with the new ball probably wasn't his absolute best, as Amir is in and bowls. Dawson pushes out to Van Buren at cover, and that's a maiden over from Amir, and his figures now read 20 overs, 7 maidens, 3 for 45, which on this surface, that's terrific stuff. But if you're looking at it from a Hampshire point of view, you're saying, well, great, we've got Kyle Abbott, Ahmed Abbas, we've got Keith Barker, we've got a whole host of options who can do the same thing, and we're seeing here that wickets can be taken.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, just every now and then, doesn't it? There's a little spell where the ball just seems to just wobble a little bit, and then it all goes dead. 281 for 6. Dave Allen, Hampshire's honorary archivist, is back on the tweets. Just sneezing there for a minute, sorry.
I wondered what that noise
was. Sorry about that. I thought I was going to sneeze a little while ago, and it's suddenly there. Anyway, I wasn't sure. Dave Allen has fortunately confirmed it. I might sneeze again in a minute as Higgins comes in. Barker drives it away, goes behind square on the leg side for a single. 282 for 6. That stand of 161 for the third wicket between James Vince and Felix Organ, Dave has confirmed that actually it is a new record for Hampshire against Gloucestershire here at the Ageas Bowl. So not all time, obviously. Record, yeah, just a ground record, yeah. Which I thought it might be, but I wasn't sure. But thank you, Dave, for confirming that. He's obviously been out today and he's just come in, so I didn't know, but thank you. Here's Higgins, length ball, which Dawson plays into the ground, and it goes out just in front of square on the offside, and there is no run. Gloucestershire have just been so much better since tea.
Yep.
Haven't they, really? Just look tighter, and they've stunted Hampshire's sort of, well, they were looking at way over 300 at one stage, and possibly 400, but they're 282 for 6 here, and they don't want to be losing another wicket tonight. As Dawson plays forward, he gets wrapped on the pad, but he's well forward and probably outside the line as well.
Yep, still the odd bit happening out there though, and still Higgins and Amir, you'd think, would have a few more overs left up their sleeve, and then it's just a question of maybe who will bowl a couple of overs towards the end. Who knows? Yeah, Goodman would seem to be an obvious candidate, the way he's bowled so far, very tight.
Just wonder if Amir's going to have a break actually, as Dawson pushes that up towards mid-off, and there is no run. Yeah, good comeback from Gloucestershire here since the break. Otherwise they were really going to put themselves under pressure. I mean, if Hampshire can get to 320, 330, which I'm, no reason why they can't, because this ball, of course, doesn't always do something, but it could have been so much more at one stage. Here's Higgins, gets wrapped on the pad there. I think there might have been an inside edge onto that one as it goes out on the leg side. But yeah, full credit to them. To be fair, I think Dale Blenkenstein will be fairly happy in the end. I think this afternoon he might have thought, don't know. But I think now he'll settle for this situation.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you say, you've only got to look at the scoreboard, really, and the scoreboard of the 3 sessions tells you everything in this instance.
Dawson just cannot find a gap at the moment as he turns that to forward of square leg. Again, he finds the fielder.
And that is a no ball.
Ooh. Scoring rate has definitely dropped a little bit in this last little while.
18 runs in no balls for the innings now as well. It's been a problem.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? Higgins bowls another length ball. Again, Dawson cannot find another no ball. 2 in a row.
Well, that's, as much as it's very easy for me to say, having never bowled a quick ball in my life, but you'd have to think twice in a row is something that oughtn't to happen.
No, you suddenly start thinking about it. Here comes Higgins again and bowls, and length ball to Dawson. Again, he can't find a gap as that goes up towards mid-off. End of the over. 7 overs left on day 1. 286 for 6. Barker has 17. Dawson has 22 off 73 deliveries.
Yeah, it's hard graft, this pitch, I think, and James Vince played a few really nice shots, but even Vince, 78 off 130, you'll see James Vince play far quicker innings than that. And when he did score, it was in that period where Gloucestershire just lost it a bit in the afternoon session. Things just got a little bit loose, and Vince put away some loose bowling, but too much width usually was the problem outside the off stump, and he put away some deliveries through the offside, but in controlled fashion. I think that was the key there. Amir starting a new over, and Barker tucks the ball away to Van Buren, fielding it short mid-wicket, and there is no run. But I think, in some ways it's been a little bit as Ajit Dale has gone, Gloucestershire have gone to some extent, because I think he bowled a really good spell with that old ball, and got the wicket of Organ to a dismissal which fast bowlers are perfectly entitled to get. Pull shot down the throat of fine leg. Amir bowls to Barker, who leaves through to Bracey. Good leave from Keith Barker there. But in the afternoon session, he was certainly by no means the only one, but 142 runs in that mid-session. Of course, it was a slightly longer session because I think, trying to think, what was it, 28 overs, something like that, I think we got in the morning session, somewhere around that area anyway. So it was a slightly longer session, but still the difference is marked.
It is.
In terms of number of runs scored. Amir in and bowls. Barker's forward and nudging it to cover, picked up by Jared Warner there. Gloucestershire have used 7 bowlers, but there's been no bowling for George Scott in this innings today. And there was just a couple of points where I thought maybe they might turn to Scott and just really try to dry things up in terms of get the keeper up to the stumps, bowl stump to stump, really try and force Hampshire into something injudicious, but they haven't used George Scott. As Amir bowls, who's come wide of the crease there, and he's furious because he's only succeeded in spearing it into the pads of Barker, and that might go for 4 towards mid-wicket, and does. It's beaten Van Buren, and if it beats Van Buren, it's going to beat most people. So Amir letting out a loud cry of anger as he released, well, not as he released that ball, but as he saw it whistling away through mid-wicket for 4, 290 for 6.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too straight. He's gone for the full delivery, and it's sort of middle and leg. He was going more middle and off. That's why he was disappointed. Hampshire, with that boundary, have only scored 18 in the last half an hour or so, just under half an hour. So
yeah, they'll be pleased with the way they've used this new ball for sure, and I think they'll be pleased with the way they used the first one. Even though, as I say, I think Amir wasn't quite as potent in that spell as in others, as Barker's once more looking to turn the ball leg side, and Van Buren gets across to his left. It looks as if he was going to trip over his own feet there for a moment, Van Buren, but there's no run. I think sometimes with Van Buren, the feet can move so quickly. I think even he's not quite in control of them. Sometimes the feet can maybe have a mind of their own. Anyway, I think he's kept the energy up well. He has, yeah. In the field, and that's certainly something that you can say about Van Buren's captaincy. He's going to go out to the boundary now, but it's only going to be for what, 1 ball. But again, even when they were leaking runs at one stage, the body language seldom was bad. Amir in wide of the crease, and it's a no ball, so it's not wide. The last. That was too wide. It looked very close to a back foot no ball for sure.
Yeah, I think you'll probably find that he's come too wide of the crease there.
Yeah. So I suspect that is what it's been given for. I mean, live, it looked as if he must have been all over that return crease line, so I imagine that is what
it might have been, but just the angle he came in at, I thought, gosh, that's wide.
It was a good ball. It was just too wide of the crease, and it went fairly tight to Barker's stumps, and it was one of those ones where he did leave it, but might have had a think about playing at it. Amir then bowls, and Barker's turned round there, looking to work leg side, and it's just rolled away out into the cover point region, and there is no run. 290 for 6. There are 6 overs left in the day's play. We'll see whether Higgins continues. I can see George Scott is actually marking out his run. Whether he's going to bowl, I don't know. Actually, it looks like Van Buren's going to bowl. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You were saying he has kept a good energy up, and I think that's helped his team as well. But I'm just looking at the over rate. Gloucestershire are 3 behind. Now, that's not the end of the world at the moment because we're not even halfway through the game. But as Hampshire found to their cost last week, thinking that they would play all of day 4, get a few spinners in and get the over rate up, they didn't because we didn't play. Now, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen here, but I think, you know, that the umpires are quite strict with the over rates this year. Hampshire have twice now been deducted points. And I suppose you always have to be mindful of that. You don't want to be dropping too far behind. 3's quite a lot at this stage.
Yep, definitely.
292 for 6 then. 6 to do as Van Buren with his left arm spin comes back into the attack, and that's a drive by Dawson. He's finally found a gap. And he moves on to 23, 293 for 6. Hampshire might just about get another bonus point tonight. But it's not the rate of progress that they thought they might have done the way the afternoon session was going.
And of course Gloucestershire with a bonus point for the 6th wicket as well. So a couple of bowling points.
I'll be very disappointed, although a Gloucestershire fan wouldn't be if they got another point tonight bowling wise, but you never know. We've seen stranger things.
Well, I think if that were to happen, it's probably quite likely that somebody has come charging down the pitch at Van Buren and ended up running past one or something like that, because I don't think Van Buren's going to be getting the ball to... I mean, he's not a big turner of the ball at the best of times. He's not going to be ripping the ball past anyone at this stage, I don't think.
No, there's nothing out there for him at the moment. And I don't think there will be loads anyway. This pitch isn't really like that. It's not in its nature. We've got a short leg in now. That's been the break in play. We're back underway as Van Buren was about to bowl over the wicket, but he stopped. Some shadows starting to go across the ground now as Van Buren comes in. Barker plays that into the ground, fielded at short leg. So 7 runs to get another bonus point tonight. You would think that's probably well within Hampshire's capabilities. Barker drives, not quite past mid-on, very nearly. Used his feet a bit there, Barker. Thought he'd found the gap between mid-wicket and mid-on, but not quite. Is that Marcus Harris at mid-on? Yep. I think it is, yep. He's been there most of the time, hasn't he? Barker prods forward, out on the offside. And there's no run. Few of the crowd now have been, well, they've been starting to find the exits about the last half an hour or so. I always think that 6 o'clock, no matter what happens, people say that mentally that's a cut-off. There's a sweep there from Barker. There's nobody on the sweep behind square on the leg side, and that'll be 4. 297 for 6. Barker moves on to 15.
Just too far down the leg side, really. And, well, I say too far down the leg side. He has taken quite a big step across there, Barker. So actually, I thought it was further down the leg side than it was. Got to give credit to Barker there for the way he's got across and then helped it on its way. But the one thing you tend to know with Van Buren is you're going to get a fair amount of pace to work with. And so far this over, I think he's been bowling noticeably a little bit quicker than he did in his first spell.
That's work on the leg side by Barker. There is a deep mid-wicket. It's gone quite quickly out to the fielder there, and that'll be the end of the over. Barker will keep the strike, 298 for 6. Got an email here from Jake Robbins, solentcricket@gmail.com. He says, John in the Costa del Ventnor, that's on the Isle of Wight. He only says that because Ventnor, I think, has the most sunshine hours in the UK. I think that's why he said that. Thoroughly enjoyed today's play. Good contest between bat and ball. Is this the first time Felix Organ has opened in the batting for Hampshire? No, it's not. He did it a little bit in COVID year in 2020, but actually did it the second half of 2019, ironically, when Joe Weatherly was injured. At that time, he got injured at Somerset and missed the rest of the year. Felix Organ was promoted to open. As I say, did 2 or 3 games in 2020, but this is the first time he's opened since then.
Right, bowling change, and it's Jared Warner back into the attack. So I thought we might get a few overs of Goodman, but Warner it is. So the onus is on, by the looks of things, Warner and Van Buren at least to keep things tight for the rest of the day if they can't pick up another wicket. They've got 5 overs left, and if Hampshire just add another, 20, 25 runs, that's quite different to if they only add 12 or 15. As Warner is into Barker with his first delivery, and Barker leaves languidly, and it goes through to James Bracey. So Amir out of the attack, 3 for 51 by the looks of things will be his final figures for the day. Warner 9 overs, 0 for 46. Got tucked into by James Vince in one spell in particular, but he's just got to make sure that he keeps that line tight. That's simple as that. That's all you need, 6 balls on that spot. Easy to say. Warner bowling to Barker, who works the ball into the leg side. It's picked up by Van Buren at short extra cover. No, short extra cover. Where on earth did I get that from? At forward square leg. Close. You see the yeah, oh dear. See the similarities. Anyway, Van Buren picks the ball up and there's no run.
Did Amir bowl 2 spells since tea, or was it all in one?
He must have bowled 2 because he bowled one with the old ball before.
Well, since
he
tea.
came back with the new ball.
Well, I'll come back to that.
Here comes Warner, round the wicket to Barker, who's forward, defends to cover. This time, no run.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, a bit with the old ball and a bit with the new. So, actually, since tea, Amir's bowled 8 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 15.
Well, yeah, as I say, he's really proven his quality today, and in some ways, what Gloucestershire were missing up at Old Trafford, and you could also say what they were missing for the Yorkshire game at Bristol and the second innings of the Northamptonshire match in the first match of the season, just missing that real you hate to use the term X factor too often, but it's applicable, as Barker is up onto his toes this time and just pushing the ball behind square on the offside, and they have a fielder out at deep point, so that's an easy single, and it's 299 for 6 as Barker moves on to 17. Barker so far in his innings has struck the balance quite nicely between attack and defence. He's a positive player, but he's not, other than maybe there was that one shot quite early on in his innings, but he's just looked to work the ball about, and he kind of trusts his eye to be able to work the ball off the stumps, and he's done that a few times. Pick up runs, keep the board moving. Warner back over the wicket, of course, to the right-handed Dawson, who's on the drive, just a push drive into the gap at cover. They'll be able to come back for 2 runs here, and the applause is for the 300 for Hampshire, 301 for 6, so that is a 3rd batting point for Hampshire.
Yeah, well, it's been a little bit of a struggle, hasn't it, since tea. They were 225 for 2 at one stage, with Vince, Ian and Felix Organ going along nicely. It hasn't quite gone their way since then, but as I say, it's been a good Gloucestershire comeback here.
3 off the over so far. Warner to complete it. In now, bowls to Dawson, full and straight. Warner leaps up away to his right to stop the ball on the bump, as it were. And the end of the over. 301 for 6, and there are 4 overs left in the day's play.
Yep. And, what are you looking at? What, 20 to 7? Quarter to 7 nearly, I suppose, by the time we get done. Of course, Van Buren might get through his overs a little quicker, probably 10 minutes, those 4, maybe a little bit more. But the over rate, as I say, for Gloucestershire, they're 3 behind. And Van Buren has bowled 12 overs, so it's not like we've hardly seen any spin today. Sorry, he's into his 12. It's not like we've hardly seen any. It's a fair chunk. Barker pulls that away on the leg side. And short leg got to dive out of that way pretty quick. Just a single, because there is a deep mid-wicket. That's Goodman out there away to our left in just this side of the tunnel. And it's 302 for 6. Barker is on 18.
Yeah, good luck with that, Tom Lace. Exactly not where you want to see the ball coming down if you're fielding a short leg.
Horrible. A little bit too short there from Van Buren. None for 44 he has so far, as Dawson's on the back foot, cuts that away, times it nicely, but finds the fielder, who does well.
I think it's Lace again, isn't it, with the shin pads on at backward point.
Looks like he's created a divot there, doesn't he, just off the square?
Yes.
Doesn't look like he's going to put it back. Here comes Van Buren again. Dawson works that into the gap on the leg side, a little bit too short again. Gave Dawson all the time in the world to pick his spot. And it's 304 for 6. Dawson moves on to 27 very patient runs. I think he's definitely eyeing a long haul tomorrow morning and get Hampshire somewhere back on track. That's a good thing about the Bowen here. Anybody that rolls anything across, you hear it, as that's driven straight to short mid-wicket, and there is no anything with wheels, you can hear it just below us.
Cricket bags from the nursery ground.
Bags out of the hotel or anything. Outside the off stump and left alone. Barker. 303 for 6 then. 1 ball left of the 93rd over on day 1 here at the Aegeus. Very sunny evening. It's pleasant. As again, that's outside the off stump, and again Barker happy to leave that one alone. End of the over. Barker has 18. Dawson 26.
It's kind of intriguing, this, because tomorrow morning you'd imagine it will be Higgins and Amir to open things up. There's almost an argument, actually, you could say, well, should I really play for the close? Because I've got a period of bowling here where I can actually be quite confident I can score some runs off. So should I try to be positive and try and score some runs, or I don't know. I can see why you might take that approach. I suspect, you know, the counter argument is, well, if you do get through that first period of Higgins and Amir tomorrow, then you can go really, really big and throw your wicket away. Warner continuing. Forward goes Dawson, looking for a quick single here, and that is a well-taken single. Amir, the fielder, at mid-on, with the overs in his legs. He's bowled today. He wasn't going to be too quickly off the mark.
That's a dilemma faced countless times in these situations. You're right, you know, a fresh Amir and Higgins in the morning would pose a bit more of a threat than the bowlers who have been in the field all day. But it's tough when you know that this session basically belongs to Gloucestershire. So are you going to then risk it by letting them have another wicket?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one.
Warner round the wicket to the left-handed Barker, who flicks down to fine leg for a single. 305 for 6. Barker moving to 19. And yeah, do you want to give them that wicket to end the day on? Because it's a big difference, not just in terms of one more wicket on the board, but also in terms of, you'd imagine, the general mood of things in the camp, especially because it would be either Warner or Van Buren that would take it. So you've either got the skipper taking a wicket, or you've got one of the younger bowlers for Gloucestershire grabbing one at the end of the day, as Dawson leaves this one to go through to James Bracey behind the stumps. Jared Warner's not bowling and keeping wicket. I don't think we're quite at that level. Bowling so slowly I can keep wicket off myself. I think I could probably have done that on some occasions. Yes. Anyway, it's a beautiful evening. I suppose if you were to continue on well past 6 o'clock on any evening, it's not a bad one to be doing so. It's not as if we're up here freezing away. As Warner is in and bowls. In behind that one is Dawson, thinking about the single again to Amir at mid-on, but this time it's not there.
It feels like one of those evenings we could keep going for a while yet. I'm glad we're not, but we could.
Yes, it's. I suppose it's an evening for day-night cricket. That was good fun. I wish I'd managed to do a match.
Did you not?
Of day. No, it was before my time as Gloucestershire commentator, so I didn't get to do the day-night matches. I think Gloucestershire's was at Northampton. Here comes Warner in and bowls, and that's turned away towards backward square leg by Dawson. Should be able to come back for 2 here. It's played it softly enough that there's nothing Goodman from long leg can do about it. And 2 more runs, 307 for 6. Dawson moves on to 29. But obviously back then, now at Northampton, you're indoors again. They're in the skybox at the Lynn Wilson Indoor Centre end of the ground.
What, the?
Another short end there.
Oh, right.
So yes, you're completely the opposite side now. No longer out on the balcony.
Oh, well, the commentaries?
David, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Warner, last ball of the over, bowls. Rising up onto the back foot is Dawson to push the ball out into the covers, and that's the end of the over. 307 for 6, and just 2 overs left today.
So opposite to the pavilion then?
Yeah.
Oh, because we did the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy final last year, Vipers against the Diamonds, I think. So we were still in the old commentary boxes.
Right.
So they're gone now or something?
No, they're still there, but I think because of the kind of movement to and fro and that sort of thing, they've managed to switch it to the far end, and they're in the skybox.
Movement to and fro of what?
Well, movement to and fro of people making teas and coffees or whatever, people coming into the stand there. I don't know. That's that. I'm just going on what was said to me.
No, I'm just trying to work it out, because as I understand it, the commentaries were outside on the stand, which, I mean, I'm glad I never did one, because that would have driven me up the pole. But there was 2 commentary boxes that were behind that, which obviously they never used, or did they use?
I'm not sure.
Well,
I never did a game.
Oh, right. Well, there are commentary boxes. I mean, they're not the best, but they're not the worst. We've got a change of bowling here, haven't we? Hammond with his off-spin outside the off-stump left over Barker. I can never understand why nobody was ever happy using those commentary boxes, because we were straight in there for the Rachel Hayhoe. So obviously now somebody's decided that it's now at the far end. Oh, right, okay.
Well, yeah, because I think there's only one match that Sky are there for, so they might as well have the Sky box for the rest of the year.
That's interesting. Well, that might be all right over there. I've never done it over there. Barker turns that away square on the leg side. Dawson calls him through for a single. 308 for 6. Barker moves on to 20 now.
But either way, outdoors for the day-night match at Northampton, I can't imagine that was so much fun.
I used to see some pictures of the commentators in April there, and I used to think, what are you doing? Why are you outside? Ridiculous, but anyway. It wasn't my game, it wasn't my ground, it wasn't my club, so it didn't matter. And we weren't going there, so it didn't matter.
Because we didn't have a choice last year.
It's got bowls. That's turned away to backward a square leg. No run there.
Yeah, so you're just lucky that you got Cheltenham last year rather than an early match at Bristol. It's still in the marquee out there, because obviously we weren't allowed into the pavilion.
No. So we're going to be back on the balcony?
Cheltenham, I'm not sure at the moment.
That'll be an interesting
Not sure.
to fathom out. Scott with his off spin, and Dawson just cuts that away to a deepish point for a single. Moves on to 30. Dawson's good at taking the sting out of a situation, which he has, with Hampshire losing those 4 wickets, which definitely got Gloucestershire's appetite up again. It's been their session, but Dawson has just quietened the game down again, and even though Hampshire are not making the progress they would have liked, it's just been quiet for the last 40 minutes or so, as Barker drives back to the bowler, who doesn't field cleanly, and it goes onto the stumps.
It doesn't take the bails off.
No, just dislodged a fraction. Umpire's just checking them, but you're right. They didn't fall to the ground. 7 balls to do, so the last ball of this penultimate over. Scott with his off spin, bowls, edge caught first slip. Oh, he's got one to turn. And Barker didn't do a lot wrong there, just prodded forward, and it caught the outside edge. And there's another wicket for Gloucestershire, 5 in this session now, and it's 309 for 7.
That's a really good low catch from Higgins. It is the kind of catch which you don't look great if you drop, but at the same time, he made it look quite easy straight into the breadbasket, but it was quite low down. And for Miles Hammond, that's his 6th first-class wicket and his first wicket of the season, and what a valuable one that is. And they've still got now 1 over left to bowl at the new batter. So getting rid of Barker, you know, he's somebody who so often plays those really annoying cameos of 30, 40 plus, sometimes well over that. Just when you think you might have got through into the bowlers, Barker comes out and plays that kind of cameo innings. And it's not a cameo where he's you know, playing tons of shots and smashing the ball all over the place, but he just finds a way to keep that board moving. And he did it here, even against the new ball as well. So what a bonus that is. And for Miles Hammond, he will be over the moon with that wicket there. He's only bowled 2 overs in this one, got through quite a lot more overs in each of the last 2 matches, but he gets a wicket with a classic bit of off-spin bowling to the left-hander.
Yeah. Sorry, did I say George Scott? Yeah, it is Miles Hammond. Apologies, everybody.
And it looks as if it may be Van Buren to bowl the last over, so potentially, having just seen Miles Hammond get a wicket, Graham Van Buren's thinking, well, I'm going to have a go at this, not having you having more wickets than I am. So 5
wickets at 115 apiece, Miles Hammond.
It's down to 97 now. But yes, yeah, he's well documented, had issues with the yips, Miles Hammond, so he's back to bowling. Back to bowling a bit more now. So Van Buren to bowl the last over of the day, and onto the back foot goes Dawson and defends back towards the bowler. So that 7th wicket, absolutely vital for Gloucestershire, and I think they'll be feeling relatively happy now. Or even at 6 down, I think they wouldn't have been too disappointed with the way the day's gone. So Van Buren's in, flight to delivery. Dawson drives out towards deep cover. There's a bit of hesitation. I don't think it was hesitation as far as should we take the single here. I think they were just making sure that it had got past Miles Hammond at extra cover. So a single to Dawson, 310 for 7. So Fuller will face, and a few choice words from Liam Dawson with just the 4 deliveries left in the day for Fuller. Tom Lace will go into short leg. Higgins at slip. Those are the only 2 close catches. They do have a short extra and a short mid wicket as well, though. So still on the catch. As Van Buren moves in and bowls to Fuller. Oh, comes off the inside half of the bat. I don't think it was in the air for very long at all, but of course Gloucestershire are gonna make Fuller before wicket here, and in fact he's bowled him. He's bowled him, and that is a wicket with what will turn out to be the last ball of the day, and Graham Van Buren has his 100th first-class wicket. So congratulations to the Gloucestershire skipper, and he will be an overjoyed skipper at the end of that day. 2 absolute bonuses, but good bits of bowling, both of them. Hammond getting 1, and now Van Buren getting the other, and Fuller out for a duck, and Hampshire will close on 310 for 8.
Definitely Gloucestershire's session, isn't it? Big time. T was 212 for 2 So well done to Gloucestershire. Really, really good comeback there. Just shows, doesn't it, the benefit of just hanging in there, sticking in there, and you never know what's going to happen. Not a great afternoon session for the away side, but a much better evening session, and they will be the happier of the two teams walking back.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we said, didn't we, at the beginning of the day, probably Gloucestershire would be quite happy with anything under 350, and now they've got a great chance to. In fact, they'll be very disappointed, I think, not to limit Hampshire to less than 350 with just Abbott and Abbas to come tomorrow morning, and they can bring back potentially a well-rested Mohammed Amir, who'll be gunning potentially for a 5 for having taken 3 today. But yeah, it's been dogged stuff from Gloucestershire at times, and you'd expect nothing less from them as a side. It's what I think they would say. Perhaps they wouldn't put it quite in those terms, but one of their marks as a side. And they've shown that fighting spirit today with that terrific evening session. And like you say, they'll be thrilled walking off, having especially it being Hammond and Van Buren that got the 2 wickets at the end there. They'll be delighted with that. At the same time, Hampshire have got 310 runs on the board, and I don't think that's an amount of runs to be sniffed at.
98 for 6 in that session, so a much better session. Thank you, Ed. Thanks to Melissa earlier. They'll both be back tomorrow, as I will, Kevin James, and I think we'll have a little bit more Joe Weatherly at some point as well. He said he'll be back tomorrow. Hope you've enjoyed the commentary, and we'll be back at 11 o'clock tomorrow.